All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Share this out, share this out, share this out. Welcome. It's Friday night. Friday night, the Law of One. Welcome, everybody. Share this out. Like I said, share this out, share this out. Okay. So it's Friday night. Oh, let me turn off this overlay here, right? How about I turn that off? Where is the overlay? I'm in the wrong place. There we go. Put myself up in full screen here. There we go. Okay. So, welcome everybody. And I'm trying to see where we're live, making sure that we are live. Yeah, we're live. Okay. Denise, welcome. Right? Welcome. Tag everybody. Get them in here. Welcome everybody. It's the Friday Night's the Love One. I was making sure that we were live. I was trying to share it to a bunch of places, and I wasn't sure if we made it, if we were actually live. Okay. So it's Friday night, the Love One. We just went from, oh, I'm in the wrong place again. We just went from the full moon. We're starting to wane. It was a wolf moon. We're starting to wane. For those of you who were in the chat last night, doesn't seem like anybody's in the audience that's from the chat last night, but I was talking to Rick and Ray and Brooke last night in the Law of One chat, where I accidentally hit the button and started a group chat and then ended up staying on there and talking. We were talking about, I was talking about the outgoing Secretary of Defense making the statement in front of people at a press conference yesterday saying, hopefully this will be the last time that I'm out here in front of the cameras talking to you guys, not in a bad way, but in a good way, so that, you know, we don't have to, I don't have to be talking about something that happened. But then again, you never know. Something could happen in the next few days to where I would have to be out here. And everybody was questioning, why did he say that? With the inauguration of Donald Trump coming up on Monday. And so there was some real contention about why he was doing that. Was that the deep state's kind of way of informing people ahead of time that there was going to be an event that they were aware of that they weren't telling Donald Trump during his inauguration? So some people were calling for Donald Trump to move his inauguration indoors so that security would be easier and more tight. And today, Donald Trump's campaign announced that because of oddly, because of the cold front that is coming down, it's an atmospheric river that it is coming down from the North Pole, and things are so cold in DC, and they're going to be so cold on the inauguration day that they moved all of the proceedings indoors. So I don't know if that had anything to do with what was said yesterday or if they were already thinking about it, but people were already worried that they were going to attempt something or allow some terrorist activity to happen or an attempt on Donald Trump's life. And people were calling for them to move the entire inauguration indoors so that they would have a smaller arena and they could have better security. It looks that like nature is helping out with that situation and driving the entire thing indoors so that people won't have to stand outside in the freezing cold during the inauguration. So if you were on last night when we were talking, I was talking about that was something that was going on in the world, and a lot of people were concerned for an open air inauguration of Donald Trump, worrying because it seemed like the deep state was threatening to try something or to allow someone to try something. And they already tried 3 times since July or June, as it is now, to kill the man. So something was going to be afoot. So we'll see what happens now. Now it's going to be harder for anything to happen and anyone to get anywhere near the president-elect or any the people that are going to be there as cabinet and politicians that are going to be there for the inauguration. Coupled with the fact that Barack Obama's wife isn't going to go there. She took a pass on it. A lot of people were wondering if there's something if the game was afoot and something was planned for that event. So they're now going to do it indoors. And they claim that it has nothing to do with that kind of warning, but it was because it's going to be so cold. It's going to be well below zero on Monday in Washington, D.C. So they're going to do it indoors. All right. Welcome, Penny. Welcome, Reese. If you don't say anything in the chat, then I don't see that you're there. I just see numbers. So thank you and welcome. Share this out. Share this out. Share this out. Share this out. Okay. So so I wanted to point that out before we got started. That oddly enough, after weird things were happening, right after weird things were happening. Is it Rada? Welcome. So yeah, after weird things were happening, they're going to do the inauguration indoors, and people were calling for that to make sure that security was tight enough, because it would appear that it's possible that the deep state was going to allow something nefarious to happen, if up to and including possibly another attempt on Donald Trump's life on Monday. I don't know that. I can't vet that, but it just seemed weird that those kind of comments were being made. And then some people, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama's wife, some people were all of a sudden were like, we're not going to go to the inauguration. Could have all been a coincidence that they just don't like Donald Trump and they hate him and they're not going to go to the inauguration. So that's okay. But then when the Secretary of State comes out, I think it was the SecDef, and he comes out and says that, oh, well, hopefully I won't be able to have to talk to you guys, but who knows, something, a large, crazy event could happen in the next few days. And the next few days are up to the inauguration of Donald Trump on the 20th, which is Monday. So don't know, but they moved it indoors, so they'll have better security and people will be nice and warm. They won't be freezing to death outside. Okay. So let me make sure that we're live everywhere here. I think we are, right? Okay, so share this out with everybody. So we're on session 73, I believe, is where we are, 74. I have it primed. It's the only one that I have primed and ready. I didn't have time to ready. So if we finish this session this week, we won't be able to go to the next session because I don't have that one set up with the computer speaking it. So and I won't be reading the whole entire thing myself, right? So I don't have it plugged into the computer program to read. So we'll be doing one session if we get through it, but it's 18, 20, almost 19 minutes long. So it'll be okay, right? So yeah, like I said, share this out. Peter, welcome, brother. So yeah, so there was some worry that there was going to be shenanigans. If you're Irish, you know that word. There was going to be some shenanigans at the inauguration. So that's not why they moved it indoors. They claim it was because the weather was going to be so cold that it was going to be dangerous for some people to be outside in that kind of frigid cold air, standing around waiting for the inauguration and all of that. So they didn't want to have that. So they're moving it indoors. So now, instead of being able to have hundreds of thousands of people at the inauguration, they can only have like 3,000 or 4,000 people indoors in the arena that they're going to have it in. So they're going to have overflow somewhere for people to be able to watch it on television. It's going to be televised anyways, but we'll see what happens there. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, that they're moving it indoors for whatever reason. And they claim that that's what it is that they're doing to move it indoors. Okay, so let me go ahead and start the session that we have primed for the Law of One, and I'll do a sound check. You guys let me know if you can hear it okay, and we'll get started from there, okay? So let me go ahead and start.
October 21st, 1981. 73.0 Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 73.1 Questioner, could you first please give me an indication of the instrument's condition? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated, with the exception of the vital energy level, which is distorted more nearly towards that which is normal for this entity.
Thank you. I think we already did this one. I think I have the wrong one primed. Let me look and see if I have another one primed. We may be out of stuff. Maybe I didn't open the other one that I thought that I opened. Let me see which one this is. No, that's the only one that I have. So if we finished 73 already, unfortunately, we're going to be playing that, because I was confused and I did not have time to look at where we were, because I was talking to Cassie on the phone for a long time. Then I had to get my mom in the shower and get lunch. I did not have time to prep. So we may be actually listening to the session that we had last week already. Something tells me that we did, but I did that last week too, and the week before. Weirdly, I'm having a lot of deja vus when it comes to this, and I've done this before. So we'll let it play out and see what happens here.
73.2 Questioner, has the vanishing ritual that we have performed been helpful for this contact? Ra, I am Ra. The ritual described has gained with each working in making efficacious the purity of contact needed not only for the RA contact but for any working of the adept. 73.3 Questioner, thank you. We would like to thank RA at this time for the opportunity to be of service for those on this sphere who would like to have the information that we gain here to disseminate.
Okay, so we didn't do this one already. We are on session 73. But I thought we did this one already. So I'm having strong deja vus, and I apologize if we are replaying one that we already played. We'll still go anyway. I think maybe I started it and then I got away from it and never finished it. So we'll just go with it and see. Okay. So welcome, Bo. Welcome, brother. All right. So let's go ahead.
You stated that free will, one pointed in service to others, had the potential of alerting a great mass of light strength. I assume that the same holds precisely true for the service to self polarity. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect, but subtly so. In invocation and evocation of what may be termed negative entities or qualities, the expression alerts the positively oriented equivalent. However, those upon the service to others path wait to be called and can only send love. 73.4 question.
Yeah. See, this is one of those weird serendipitous things, right? Or apropos. We were just talking about this this week. We were just talking about this subject. And today I was talking about this very subject. And now, so I know I'm getting deja vu even crazier, but apparently that you know, in Brooke, if she were here, she went back and started the Law of One over this time, the second time that I've done it. And as she's listening to it, will go into the Law of One chat, and she's on a certain session. I think she was on session 17 or something like that, maybe higher. Don't quote me on that. Brooke would know if she was here. And she said, weirdly, everything that Raw was talking about is what everybody's talking about in the chat. And I said, that happens to where I'll have conversations on the same week or even the same day and not remember what session that I'm on or what it's about. And then I'll play it and it'll have everything to do with everything that we were discussing in the chat and off of chat in personal conversations. And then all of a sudden the Law of One is talking about. Sometimes I'm aware of that. And I start posting things on purpose ahead of time with my reels or whatever you want to call them, depending on the platform, reels, short, whatever. And I'll do that prior to, so that when we do the Friday and it drops, then people have already been looking at some of the memes that have to do with what we're talking about. And then afterwards, I do the same thing. I'll drop stuff that we were talking about on the Friday, talking about with the Law of One and the topics. So sometimes I do that on purpose, but other times I don't. And this happens to be one of those weeks where I didn't do it on purpose. And it turns out we were actually having these very intense discussions about this information right here that Raw's talking about. Let's continue.
What I was trying to get at was that this alerting of light strength is, as I see it, a process that must be totally a function of free will, as you say, and as the desire and will and purity of desire of the adept or operator increases, the alerting of light strength increases. Is this part of it the same for both positive and negative potentials, and am I correct with this statement? Ra, I am Ra. To avoid confusion, we shall simply restate for clarity your correct assumption. Those who are upon the service to others path may call upon the light strength in direct proportion to the strength and purity of their will to serve. Those upon the service to self path may call upon the dark strength in direct proportion to the strength and purity of their will to serve. 73.5 questioner. I will undoubtedly make many errors in my statements today, because what I am going to do is try to guess at how this works and let you correct me. In considering the exercise of the middle pillar, I have thought it to be wrong in that the adept sees or visualizes light moving downward from the crown chakra down to the feet. RA has stated that the creator enters from the feet and moves upward, and that this spiraling light enters from the feet and moves upward. It seems to me that an adept alerting light strength, in visualizing the use of this, would visualize it entering in the direction of the feet and energizing first the red energy center and moving upward through the energy centers in that fashion. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. 73.6 questioner. Could you tell me how I am wrong in that statement? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. 73.7 questioner. Would you please do that? Ra, I am Ra. There are two concepts with which you deal. The first is the great way of the development of the light in the microcosmic mind/body/spirit. It is assumed that an adept will have its energy centers functioning smoothly and in a balanced manner to its best effort before a magical working. All magical workings are based upon evocation and/or invocation. The first invocation of any magical working is that invocation of the magical personality, as you are familiar with this term. In the working of which you speak, the first station is the beginning of the invocation of this magical personality, which is invoked by the motion of putting on something. Since you do not have an item of apparel or talisman, the gesture which you have made is appropriate. The second station is the evocation of the great cross of life.
Welcome, Tina. Yeah, see, now he's talking about the archetypes here, and that's crazy because we're having a lot of discussions behind the scenes about the chakras and the archetypes of personality that coincide with the chakras, and this is what Ra is talking about right here. He's starting to talk about the archetypes, and literally, if he does all of them, he'll talk about all 7 archetypes. So that's crazy, right? Let's continue here.
This is an extension of the magical personality to become the creator. Again, all invocations and evocations are drawn through the violet energy center. This may then be continued towards whatever energy centers are desired to be used. 73.8 questioner.
Right, so the manifestation is in the violet chakra center, right? Which is the violet, is that the crown chakra? I always get confused because there's 2 purple ones, one light purple, that's like blue and indigo, right? Light blue and the dark blue. So through the violet, right? So that's where the creation happens, but the creation can only happen because of the heart, because the heart balances everything, because that's the Vesica Pisces, right? That's the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang crosses over to where they show it, to where you have the light and the dark and the dark and the light. That's that circle within the circle within the circle, which is the Vesica Pisces. Okay, and that's the heart chakra. It's a triple toroidal field. You have the upper 3 chakras is one toroidal field. Then the lower 3 chakras is another toroidal field, and both of those merge because if you're in service to self, you love yourself, so you still are ruled by the heart. And if you're in service to others, you love others. So all of the energies of the masculine and the feminine or the other way around, because the masculine is the warlike 3D lower 3 chakras, and the feminine is the upper 3 chakras that are the astral, the spiritual, nurturing, loving, caring. That's the upper 3 chakras, and the lower 3 chakras are the physical plane. Red, ray, root, orange, and yellow are all the lower band, which is this rules this matrix. Okay, so the Vesica Pisces is that energy that comes, that goes like that, and that center point is that heart chakra, and that's the secret of 3, 6, and 9. If you go back to Thoth, the Atlantean, and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth gives you the names of the spirits or the gods that rule the archetypes. And there are 7 of them, and their names are 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a direct quote from the Emerald Tablets. And if you realize that, and you, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as the chakras, and you actually overlay 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then the red ray root chakra, this place, becomes 3, and then the heart chakra becomes 6, and the crown chakra becomes 9. The God particle, the Higgs boson, the alpha and the omega, everything and nothing. 9 is 0 and 9. It's everything and nothing, alpha and the omega. So literally that when you realign that, it's the only place in the ancient literature where they call the chakras 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that would suggest that if the first chakra is 3, there's 2 below that. That would suggest there's 2 above that. And 7 and 4 is what? Right? So you start looking at the tree of life, right? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So there's also another one missing. We were talking about that because it goes to the 12. And that some people understand with the 12 apostles following Jesus and him being 13. And 13 is 1 plus 3, and it's 4. Right, and it's 1 and 3. So again, the 1 controlling the 3. So it's the creator, and that's the clock face where you have the 13 is the 1 in the center, which is controlling the dial of the clock. Jesus had 12 apostles, not just Jesus, but that reoccurs throughout all the religions around the earth, where that number 12. How many tribes are there of Israel? 12. Okay. So when you look at the tree of life in everybody's religion, like the biggest ones, like the Hebrew tree of life, there are currently 10, but they're going to end up adding 2 more. I was just talking about this today. Originally, the plagues of Moses from God during the Exodus in the Bible, there were originally only 7 plagues, and the Hebrews added 3 more to make it 10. And that's what they currently have on their tree of life. And if you look at the Viking tree of life, there are also 10, but there's 7 worlds. And then you have the Bifrost, the actual rainbow bridge, but you also have the eagle and the crow and the snake that is going up the trunk of Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life. So when you look at all of those and you count them, they're the same 10, but the Vikings actually show 11 and 12 as 2 more characters that are in that, and they're not explained as much. The Hebrews are also starting to look at that. They already added from the original 7. You can look this up in history and in theology, that they had only 7 plagues and they added 3 more by this time in life. And as we go forward in time, you're going to see that they're going to add more. So they're going to have 12 to match the 12 tribes of Judah, the 12 tribes of Moses, or the 12 tribes of Israel. And if you look at other races, they have the same thing. The Asians already have the 12 levels and 12 tribes. So everybody is starting. And if you go back in time, if you're old enough, like some of us that are here are old enough to remember 40 years ago, right? I'm 57. So there's some of you out here that are in your 40s and 50s. You remember, maybe if you're in your 40s, you may not. But they didn't have, until 1948, they were missing 3 of the chakras. They didn't have 3, 6, and 9. They didn't have the vibration that we now know as 3, 6, and 9, the vibratory rate of those patterns, all the way back to the Roman times and the Egyptian times. They had they had the harmonics of all except 3, 6, and 9. So they discovered those, and that's the what people know as the Fossaggio tones of do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, because it's complete now where before it wasn't. So now it reoccurs. And if you count that, right, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, 7. And then it regurgitates or loops around to do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay. And that is the 7 chakras, and that's the harmonic resonance that is the reason that they're named that. Do, re, mi. Those are actually the vibrations of the chakra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So then in mathematics, when you look at Nikola Tesla, and Nikola Tesla is talking about the secret to the universe is in energy, frequency, and vibration. And I just showed some of you the reel that I made where I show that the Ohm symbol is actually the vibration of 3, 6, and 9. And if you look at the Ohm symbol, you can watch one of my reels. If you haven't seen it, contact me and I'll forward it to you. Or you can go back in time and look at it. It's one of my reels, and I posted it like a year or 2 ago, but I downloaded it and posted it for a couple of people to look at. Brooke, one of them, if she's here. Chandra, welcome. Joanne, welcome. If I missed anybody, I apologize. And so the Om sound, right? Om is a combination of those 3, the red ray root, the heart chakra, and the crown chakra. You take the vibration of the 2 of those and you put it together, it makes up. And if Peter were still here, I don't know, Peter, if you're still here, he could tell you what that megahertz is when you combine them. It's the God hertz, and Joanne might know that, or Chandra might know that. It's the resonation that is the creative creator of the universe frequency. And I think that's 947 or 974 hertz, whatever that is. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Peter's better at remembering those different frequencies. So if he was here, he'd be able to say what the God frequency is. And that's the Ohm frequency. And that is a combination of 3, 6, and 9. Those frequencies put together make up that one resignation. So the secret to the universe in mathematics is 3, 6, and 9, and that is this place, and that is this matrix. And so the frequency of that is the physicality of it. So frequency, right? Energy, frequency, and vibration makes up this place. That's the 3 things that make up the 666, and the 666 from the Bibles. The 6, 3 score and 6 is this place that we're made of. Is made up of 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 666, the nature of the beast, the number of the beast. The beast is this place, physicality, living in the flesh. That is the beast. That is where negative people live, people that are in service to self. Evil people live in the flesh only. They cannot move into the spiritual because they live in the flesh only, in the bottom 3 chakras, not in the upper 3 chakras. And Ra is talking about that. Is it 432? Thank you. So 432, I think it is that. That's why I was like 900 and something is the really high one, but 432, I think you might be right. And 440 isn't that where you hit C is 440? Is that what that is? Right? 432, but they changed it to 440. So that's where they perverted it. 440 hertz, where they changed it to, is when you hit C in the spectrum of sound, and that's actually referred to as the sound of the devil, because the actual harmonic resonance that is God is 432, and that's minus. So that's a G major or a G flat. Okay. So it's not actually C. C is not actually where you're supposed to tune your instruments to. It is for this place, for you to get stuck in this place. So if you are in this place and you live in the flesh in the 3D, you like the sound of that harmonic resonance of C. But if you are somebody who is spiritual, and you can look at anybody who makes music who is spiritual, you will find that they are going to tune their instruments and start in G or G major or G flat. And sometimes G minor, it's going to be in the G range, which is closer to the 432 hertz, not 440. So 440 was done by evil people to lock people into this matrix. And so it resonates perfectly with this, but it's not the ohm sound. The ohm, if you listen to the ohm sound and listen to C, you'll find that the resonance is, the ohm is 432, not 440. So 440 is out of tune with the resonance of the and the universal oneness. It's 948. I knew that's why I was saying 974 or 47. 948 is the universal oneness, and that's the ohm when it that's the ohm when it goes to the 24 and the enigma of 24. Okay, so the 12, which is this dimension, is 432, and the 24 is the 900 and whatever that is, 948, right? So when you get to the enigma of 24, and then everything repeats from there, and they're figuring that out in mathematics, that is where people are going to start going from. And originally they didn't know that we had 7 chakras. They added the 7, and now they're starting to go to 10, right? And eventually they're going to go to 12. And then when they go to 12, that's going to expand. That's 5D in thinking and expansion, is the 12 chakras instead of 7. Okay, so when the people here quickly start, because they're already starting to expand to 10, and they've done that for almost 1,000 years now, but they haven't put it into the resonance yet. They haven't made that equation yet, and that's going to happen between now and 2032. So people are going to start really going, we have more chakras. And if Jacqueline were here, I was just talking to her off camera and told her I wanted to talk to her. So either tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to talk with Jacqueline, because she showed me pictures. They already know what the chakras are, going up to 12 and going all the way to 24. They're already, the colors are already there. And so some people already know about them and know what the vibration is, but the mass of the earth doesn't yet. And the expansion is just now starting to realize 10. And it's been playing out the same way in history. And this is why I brought this up. If you go back in history to 40 years ago, they were telling the world 40, 50 years ago that the human race was only 3,000 years old. Okay. And 35 years ago, they said, well, maybe we're 10,000 years old. Then 20 years ago, they said, maybe we're 12,000 years old. Do you see the progression here? They went from 2,000, 3,000, maybe we're 10,000 years old, and the pyramids are only 10,000 years old, because they started getting on to thinking that the timeline was wrong, and that Jesus didn't happen 2,000 years ago, that Jesus may have only happened 1,200 years ago. And then they realized that they were adjusting the wrong way. So then they adjusted back the other way and said, wait a minute, it's possible that the earth is 10,000 years old. Then they said only 12,000 years old for the human race. Now they're starting to say it's very possible that we could have been living here for 1 million years. So see how that exponentially goes from the 12 to this giant expansion in the thinking minds of even science, where they literally are inking it out. We're only 1,000 years old. We're only 2,000 years old. We're only 3,000 years old. Then it jumped. 2012, 2015 jumped to, wait, we might be 10,000 years old. And then 2015 or 2012 to 2015, wait, we might be 12,000 years old. And then 2015 to 2025, we may be over 1 million years old. Exponentially, this it goes through, because when you hit 12, That's the same clock face. That is the masculine and feminine. An entire day is 24 hours. So you were getting to 12 in the spiritual, but that's only one half of the equation. There's another half of the equation, like there's 12 hours of lightness and 12 hours of dark. There's half of the energy is masculine and half of the energy is feminine. So when you add the two wholes, the two halves together, it's not 12, it's 24. And then it repeats immediately to 48, and then it counts by multiples of 12 from that point on. I don't know if this is too much for you guys and you're not following along with what I'm saying, because I tend to do this sometimes. So mathematically, if you know anything about, say, alien encounters, whether you believe in people from another planet or not, when these people have been coming down here, they've been telling everybody down here that we're counting things wrong because we've only progressed to counting to 10. Do you notice again how we have the same progression? We're counting to 10 and they tell us we should be counting by 12s. And they teach us how to count by 12 because when we count by 10, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or if you're European, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And so when these beings get here from another world, they're telling us that we need to either count by the lines in our hand or the knuckles in our fingers. So if you count by the lines in your hand, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That we're supposed to count by the multiples of 12. Or if you use the knuckles on the other side, because the lines are just the insides of the knuckles, that's how you're supposed to count, multiples of 12, not multiples of 10. And the multiples of 10 vibration is the C vibration, which is not the right vibration. So energy, frequency, and vibration doesn't fit and work right unless you readjust your thinking away from 12, which is weird because you're moving it up, or away from 10 up to 12. And so you're shifting the chakras down from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And once you reshift your thinking and realize that the alignment of the chakras, according to the oldest scrolls that we have that come from the Atlantis time period, which we now know is died out around 77,000 years ago, that thinking was telling in the book of Thoth, or the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. In there, you can read that, and I'm writing about that in the book that I'm writing now, to further what I wrote in the book that I have out that I published last June. And that is that the chakras, the names of the chakras are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the charm of making that the Celts know about, the Irish and the Welsh know about, is the 3, 6, and 9. Okay. And that's Anal Nathrach Uth Vas Bethud Dothiel Dienve, which translates to all that it is nature and of time space do heed my intention. That's as close as I can get it without screwing with you and saying the breath of the dragon, because the dragon is the beast. Okay, the dragon of the North Sea, Tiamat the dragon, the European dragons, that's the literally the Ouroboros, the Ouroboros, where you get the word Aurora Borealis, comes from Orobus, which is the serpent that encompasses the entire planet. That's where you get that circle with everything with the 5-pointed star with the circle around it that makes the unity for this place. That's the Ouroboros, the dragon that encompasses the world. And that's the dragon of the North Sea in the Viking pantheon and the Ouroboros and the other pantheons in Europe. So that is literally the tree of life. That's the Kundalini energy and the Kunda buffer energy. Okay, so the Kundalini energy is actually the masculine energy that's going one way, and the Kunda buffer is the feminine energy that's going the other way. And that's what the Merkaba, your heart chakra, and the energy of that, which is the triangle and the triangle, superimposed over each other in the 2D version of the Star of David, which is the heart chakra, in a 2D rendering. The Merkaba is the energy of the masculine and the feminine energy, and the masculine or the feminine energy on top, wait, the other way around. Yeah, the feminine energy on top spins clockwise and the masculine energy spins counterclockwise, or the other way around. I'd have to look at the image again. And that literally your heart chakra is spinning in opposite directions, and it balances out. And that's where the Kundalini energy, when it comes up, it activates your heart chakra, and then really it activates all your chakras, but it really activates the heart chakra and the third eye chakra and the crown chakra as it moves up in your body. I don't know if this is confusing people or not. Maybe I shouldn't go down this road, right? Higgs particles is Peter's saying this 966, the frequency of God frequency. So 996, he's saying 966 9996. So yeah, and then he's talking, and then he says ends up back. Ends up back 369, and it ends up 0001. Yeah, it goes back to the binary code we were talking about last week, right? Goes back to that binary code that we were talking about. And so literally, yeah, right. The Higgs boson, which is the God particle. And then it goes back to the ones and zeros that we talked about last week when we were talking about the binary code that Jim Penniston got from the alien spaceship when he touched it at Rendlesham Forest, right, Peter? Okay, so hopefully we're getting that whole thing hammered out to get what's his name on Ancient Aliens Worldwide, my group, to interview him, which we'll be doing on Orion Rising, and then we'll publish it there. So we'll be live there, and I think we'll have to share it there because I've been having problems trying to go live there unless we use Zoom. So we'll see. I'll look at it between now and then and figure that out. But Brianna, welcome. So Ra's talking about the archetypes and moving into that balancing and getting into the information of the people who are in service to others and the information that they gain on the ascension. And Dawn was saying, is it the same information or the same energy? And Ross said, no, with a subtle difference. So the subtle difference is negative energy gives you, and if you're in service to self, as you ascend there, you get a different package of knowledge and downloads that you get that are self-serving. And you don't get those if you're in service to others. You only get the service to others, and they only get the service to self downloads. So everything that you have that you're getting, they're getting the opposite. They're getting everything that curtails to this place, and how to control people and how to abuse people and gain the power, that magic that they gain from this place that people don't realize that they get. That because if you're in service to others, you can't understand what they get when they're in service to self. They also can't get any of the information that you get, so they have to deny that information, because all the information that you get expands your consciousness to a higher self, a higher realm, infinite wisdom, infinite love, infinity itself, the creator, and they can't have anything be above them. So they fight against that, and they defy that information, and they tell you that it's a lie and that it's made up and that it's not real. And that plays out like it's playing out now. If you Google what is the creation story of any religion, pick one, they'll say the creation myth is this. So they're telling you, without you realizing it, that it's fake, that there is no religion, that they're all fake. None of them are validated by secularists, and Google is owned and operated by secularists. So you do not get any information other than this is not real, but this is what those crazy people think. They don't say those words, but that's what they're saying to you. The creation myth of the Hebrew Bible is this. And they use that word myth for every single religion, every single spiritual practice. What is the origin of the creation of the universe? The myth that is followed and practiced in many religions is, and they use that word always, myth, misinformation, myth, disinformation, myth, not real, fake, not real. And that's what they're telling you. So when you're looking things up, you don't realize you're being programmed that it's not real. And that's what they do with everything. Okay, so let's continue here and see what how far Ra goes with the archetypes here and the differences between being in service to self and in service to others.
Then will you speak of the difference between the spiraling light that enters through the feet and the light invoked through the crown chakra?
See, so now he's talking about the Kundalini energy and the expansion and the opening of the third eye. Okay, and Dawn is not understanding the difference between the Kundalini spiraling up and illuminating you, and then the light of the world, so to speak, like Jesus is the light of the world, Moses was the light of the world, Elijah was the light of the world, Muhammad was the light of the world, even Thor was the light of the world, right? Thor used this hammer Mjolnir, which means lightning, and his name is Thor, which means thunder, and he cracked the sky with lightning, illumination that scared off Fenrir the wolf, which was the veil. Finral the wolf was covering the sky, and he illuminates the sky. So it's the same story as Jesus becoming the light of the world. Thor is becoming the light of the world. It's the same story in a different religion told to warriors in the north, but it's identical to the Christ story that was told to the Hebrews. And both of those religions get mad at me when I say that, but anybody who's a true theologian who looks at religion and does a comparative to their creation stories or their pantheon in and of themselves realizes that all religions actually have a version of that. The Hebrews say Jesus isn't real, but if Jesus isn't real, then Moses can't be real, because the Moses story is exactly the same story told a different way of Jesus, of Thor, of Marduk, okay, of Zeus, of all of these religions. They're all the same with a different name and a slightly different way of telling the story, because it fits the pantheon of their gods and the peoples, whether they were a warlike, monotheistic, male-dominated religion or a warlike, female-dominated religion, or a dual aspect like the Vikings. Most people don't even realize that the Viking religion was a dual aspect, God, goddess, with the son. So the Trinity was mother, father, or father, mother, son. And in the religions where it was a monotheistic, male-dominated religion, like the Hebrew religion, they didn't venerate the woman, so the woman became moved out of that Trinity. Instead of being father, mother, son, it became father, son, totality, Holy Spirit. In nomine Patri, Filii, Spiritus Sancti. So you're in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Ghost. So they moved the woman to the side and said Jesus was the voice of God, therefore he is God, and the Trinity is their union. So you have the Father, the Son, and then you have the two of them as one, and that becomes the Trinity. But in other religions where the feminine wasn't moved to a position of servitude in that religion, then you had the God, goddess, son. And the same thing happened with Marduk and Tiamat. Tiamat was the goddess, and the father was the one that the kids killed. And then Tiamat became evil, so she became the devil instead of the masculine. She became the devil, and then Marduk became the savior of the people. But it was the same story. They just rearranged the characters slightly to fit the people of that grouping or that country or that city state, and their pantheon of showing how to push the women aside and not worship the woman and worship the masculine again. That's the culture of the Middle East. So that's why you have that dominating in those major religions. And then when you get to the Vikings, everyone thinks that the Vikings, they try to paint them as that, but they're not. When you look at them in history, women fought alongside. Women were in charge. Women were warriors. Women were everything. They had all equal rights. The men did the same work that the women did. Women did the same work that the men did. It wasn't the culture the way it's set up in the Western world, which is man goes out in the fields and women take care of the babies. Man comes home, woman serves you. That comes from the Middle East, and that's moved with Christianity over to the Western world. And so women have been pushed aside to the back seat of that religion because you have a male-dominated only one God, and it's a man. And that's the same culture that was in the Roman pantheon at the time, and that's why the warrior societies. Okay, so when you have warrior societies that are male-driven, they have male gods that are in charge. That's why the Roman gods, you had the male god being the one who was in charge of everything, even though there was goddesses. They weren't as prominent as he had the final say. Was the man had the final say. Warrior cultures always do that because they're living in the masculine energy. I know this might be too much for you guys, right? So And so, I'll have to, let me start playing this because maybe it's too confusing and you think I'm jumping around when I'm actually trying to show you how that wheel of life works. Let's continue here.
Ra, I am Ra. The action of the upward spiraling light drawn by the will to meet the inner light of the one infinite creator may be likened to the beating of the heart and the movement of the muscles surrounding the lungs and all the other functions of the parasympathetic nervous system. The calling of the adept may be likened to those nerve and muscle actions over which the mind/body/spirit complex has conscious control. 73.9 Questioner. Previously you stated, I believe I'm correct.
Right, gender. I always tell people use DuckDuckGo, and you won't have to do that. You won't have to just pass over the first 10, right? right, to get to the truth. But you kind of have to do that if you're on Google or when it's run by secularists. You got to go and search for the truth. You can't just look at the first 10 because they make sure that the first 10 are paid for. The first 10 searches that you always get are people pay money to have those bumped up to the top. It's not actually giving you the actual information, searching the internet to give you what you're looking for. It's giving you for what people have paid for you to see or what they want you to know. And so they push down what they don't want you to know. So you think you're getting a search engine that's telling you the truth, and they're not. They're trying to askew you. So good for you, Chandra, to know to scroll down and look through the list to find the actual truth, because that's the only way you're going to find it when you're on one of those sites. The first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence, right? That's funny. Okay, let's continue here.
In saying this, that where the two directions meet, you have a measure, let us say, of the development of any particular mind/body/spirit complex.
It's funny, I did that backwards. I was thinking it was going to go the other way, and it was over here, right? So yeah, Janice said, look at Joan of Arc, right? And look what they did to her. So at the time, the church went after her as a heretic and burned her at the stake. Didn't they burn her at the stake? They killed her. And now the French people have embraced her as a hero. She's a national hero to the French people. But at the time, the church killed her for what she did. And she was saving the whole entire people. But because she believed that she was sent by God, and how dare a woman think that God would even talk to her, let alone that she could be in charge and help people. But now the very people of France see her as a hero. They also see Mary Magdalene as a hero. If you know that story, I don't want to get involved in that. I can go on that for a while, right? But right, yeah, the women in Peter. I mean, Peter worked. He's an actor, and he was on the show, the History Channel's Vikings, right? So he would know best because he had to read the lore for the scripts and everything. But the women in the Vikings were known as shield maidens, the ultimate warrior, right? And all the Valkyrie in that pantheon, those warrior angels who came to take your souls. In the Western world that's non-Viking, they see that as the angel of death. But to the Vikings, it was female warriors who were immortal, sent by God, sent by Odin to come and collect your soul and protect your soul and take you to Valhalla. And nobody wanted to fight a Valkyrie because those women would murder you. Nobody could stop a Valkyrie. And they were all women. There was no men Valkyries, right? So think about that, right? So Peter says they were the ultimate warriors, the baby makers and protectors of man, and the ultimate warriors, the shield maidens. And this was the reality, the real Alpha and the Omega. So in the Viking lore, in their religion, what the secularists tell you is that the Vikings were men, rapists, pillagers that would go raiding, go out of Viking, and all they would do is rape and pillage everywhere they went. And so they were just these crazy dominating men who were doing all this. That's not true. And if you watch the TV series of the Vikings on History Channel, that was based in fact, those events really took place. And everything that they were doing was not for conquest. They were in the beginning when they found England. They went there to get trinkets and gold. But once they realized there was land there, they came back to farm. They came back to set up settlements. They weren't doing that because they wanted to murder and rape and pillage all the English. They were coming over there to be able to live there. And when you look at what the Vikings did from that point on, they did that. So Bjorn, Ironside, so Bjorn, bear, and his name's Bear. Bjorn means bear. Ragnar's son went all the way over to the Middle East, okay? And he set up trade relations. He didn't go there to conquer them. He went there to set up trade relations with them, but also to raid and pillage. But it wasn't the primary reason they went there. But people were afraid of the Vikings because when they would engage in combat, they would engage, and their motto was death or victory, victory or death. So if you went into combat, you either fought until you won or you fought until you died. And that was the way that that warrior creed, that warrior class fought every battle. So they fought more furiously because you only go home by victory, so you need to win. The knights later on from the church were taught the same way, and they fought that way. And that's why if you watch the movie The Kingdom of Heaven, which was also based on a true story, by the way, and the bishop at the time, he might have been a cardinal, who was there and was saying, well, we don't have enough knights to defend the place, and Balian, because that really happened, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's just a movie. Ridley Scott directed that. And he said it was more of a documentary than it was a movie. They had to tone down the actual violence to get a rating to be able to show it to people, because it would have been NC-17 or above if they would have showed the actual carnage from the warfare of the time. And so that's actually history. So in that, he turned around. He said, well, he said to Balian, we don't have enough knights, and we need to escape, right? And he said, we're not going to leave these people here and let them die just to run away, because most of the other knights did leave, and most of the knights died in battle, and the ones that were left ran away, except for Balian and the knights that he had under his command, which was only 20 or 30 men at that point. So he turned around, and there was a bunch of civilians, and some of them were in the army, but they weren't knights. And so he yelled to everybody that could hear him, kneel. And then he knighted them all, and he told them, rise a knight. And when they were all got up as a knight, the bishop looked at him and said, does making a man a knight, just making him a knight, make him a better fighter? And Balian looked at him and said, yes. And then he walked away. And then everybody saw that, and they were uplifted and was motivational, and they were able to hold the city from Sahaladin long enough to get a surrender and not get slaughtered and be able to get everyone out alive. And Sahaladin luckily was a good warrior and a good that was not not evil, and he allowed for that. He didn't want to kill everybody. He just wanted the city. He just wanted Jerusalem. So he was able to surrender, because Balian said to him, if you don't, we'll burn it all down. We'll die here. We'll kill as many of you as we can, and we'll burn the whole city if you don't allow us to surrender. We just want to surrender and leave and have your word that we're not going to be murdered. So he let them all leave and march away to the sea to go home. And of course, the Arabs didn't like that, because they wanted him to murder everybody. So to the Arabs, Sahaladin was not as much of a hero as he was to the Western world, because the Western world saw that he had a lot of faith and it was a noble guy with a lot of honor, and he not killing people and taking revenge. Okay, so let's continue. So now Ra is answering, because Dawn is asking the question about the energy that comes up. Let me get back on point. The Kundalini energy that he hasn't been told is the Kundalini energy, and then the light when the third eye opens, because when your third eye opens, it's looking up. Your third eye is not looking forward. When it first opens, it's looking directly up. It's done on purpose, because you're looking up towards God. You're looking up towards the light. And then you have to start looking around with it to see. And so you're actually looking straight up when your third eye first opens. Okay. So that's the illumination. You're supposed to see that illumination. And so when you crack that open, you're supposed to be able to see out of this place to the spiritual, to then ascend quickly to the Akashic Records or the Halls of Amente or the library, whatever you know it as, first. And then you're able to look around through training yourself, look around with your third eye. And some people are born with those abilities, and they can do that ahead of time because their third eye is open. But if you're not, and your third eye blind, when you open it, it will be looking up, and you have to learn to look around with it. All right, let's continue here.
X. Am I correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 73.10 Questioner. In invoking the alerted light, then, it would seem to me that the visualization of the invocation would be dependent upon what the use was to be of the light. The use could be for healing, could be for communication, or it could be for the general awareness, you might say, of the creation and the creator. Would you please speak on this process and my correctness in making this assumption? Ra, I am Ra. We shall offer some thoughts, though it is doubtful that we may exhaust this subject. Each visualization, regardless of the point of the working, begins with some work within the indigo ray. As you may be aware, the ritual which you have begun is completely working within the indigo ray. This is well, for it is the gateway. From this beginning, light may be invoked for communication or for healing. You may note that in the ritual which we offered you to properly begin the RA workings, the first focus is upon the creator. We would further note a point which is both subtle and of some interest.
Right, so it starts in the wisdom, in the throat chakra, the indigo. That is indigo, right? Yes, in the indigo, right? And that's when you start to pierce the veil. And what is he saying here? That it's looking up at God, right? Let's continue.
The upward spiraling light developed in its path by the will, and ultimately reaching an high place of mating with the inward fire of the one creator, Still,
Inward fire, the Kundalini fire, the inward fire of the one creator. Let's continue.
is only preparation for the work upon the mind/body/spirit which may be done by the adept. There is some crystallization of the energy centers used during each working so that the magician becomes more and more that which it seeks. More importantly,
see, it should be here, instead of saying magician, it should be magi. That's where we get that word magic and magician from, is magi. That means the illuminated one. Magi is like, is the same as padre. Well, padre means father, but it means teacher, it means illuminated one, teacher, bringer of knowledge, right? So magi means that. Guru means that. So does what do the Hebrews call that? Rabbi. Rabbi means teacher. Rabbi means the same thing. So these are all different words: Sanskrit and Coptic and Hebrew and Greek and now Pharisee, that mean these different words that are used in the different, even now to this day, but they all mean the same thing. They mean illuminated one or teacher or enlightened one. Okay, magi. That's where we get the word magic and magician. Magician means he who practices the magi, the illumination. Okay, let's continue.
The time/space mind/body/spirit analog, which is evoked as the magical personality, has its only opportunity to gain rapidly from the experience of the catalytic action available to the third density space/time mind/body/spirit. Thus the adept is aiding the creator greatly by offering great catalyst to a greater portion of the creation, which is identified as the mind/body/spirit totality of an entity.
Denise says, so then what does the gift, is that supposed to be the gift of the magi? The gift of the magi is knowledge. It's the Christ being the light of the world. So the Christing, or the Christ within, this is what he's talking about. The Kundalini within, it's the same. The God fire, the Christ fire, the fire of the Kundalini fire of God. So the illumination. So the gift of the magi is the illumination. The magi is the learned one, the life bringer, the light bringer. Okay, so that is the illumination, the wise man, the magi. So all of those references are different references that I was just saying from different cultures back there in the different languages that all of our languages are based on, even going to the Greek and the Latin and the Roman, that give us these words today that mean that. It means the illumination. The Illuminati comes from that, comes out of that. So the gift of the magi, where, say, when Jesus was there and the three wise men came and they brought gifts, that was the gift of the magi. And what did they give? They gave things that illuminate the soul, that illuminate, like frankincense and myrrh and things like that they brought as gifts to give to Jesus. And they followed what? The light of the world. They followed the northern star, and they came to Bethlehem because there was the light that they were following. Do you see? It's the same metaphor. It's the same parable about the illumination. And so the gift of the magi is literally Santa Claus giving you a gift for being good. It's the same story. Santa Claus comes down the chimney. That's the Kundalini fire going down the chimney, the claustrum in your brain, and coming back up and illuminating you. If you're balancing your chakras and you're in service to others, you're not in service to self. If you're in service to self, you're crying and pouting and being all self-serving, then you get cold. You don't get the present. The present is the gift of the magi, which is the illumination, which uplifts you and illuminates your mind. And that's exactly, it's the same story, just told a different way to different cultures. That's what I wrote about in my book, and that's what I'm writing more about to show you in the book that I'm writing now. Okay, so it's the Christ within. It's that being Christed, right? The christening, the Christed is that oil that comes from your brain and that goes down your spine, which is actually happening in all Virgos right now. If you guys are Virgos out there, it all started Thursday night or last night. And so last night. So for the next 3 days, that oil is right now dormant in your brain, sitting just below the pituitary gland in your brain, or just below the hippocampus in your brain at the top of the claustrum. And it'll sit there dormant. That's the crucifixion of the Christ oil. So the two oils have now mixed and they've gone up your spine with the Kundalini energy, and it's now sitting dormant in your brain. And if you don't eat of the tree of life in the next 3 days until Tuesday, then, or it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So by Monday at about 5 or so p.m. or 7 p.m. West Coast America time will be the 2.5 days. It'll be the 3 days. That's where Jesus is dead and is resurrected. It's the Christ within. So it's the gift of the Magi will be that illumination when that oil explodes into your all of your the optic thalamus in your brain, and so the third eye then illuminates all of your brain cells. But if you eat of the tree of life, having sex, eating crap food, and drinking alcohol and debauchery and that kind of stuff, living in the flesh, living of the tree, eating of the tree of life, you expend that sexual alchemy energy into the flesh instead of into the spirit. And that's called eating of the tree of life. And so you will get a reward down here, which will be the coal-like substance that it turns into if it doesn't illuminate your brain. So the gift of the Magi is that you get from that, but not only at that time of the month when the moon is in your sun sign, which is Virgo right now for the whole planet for the next 2.5 days. But that is what is talked about for the Christ and the Santa Claus and all of these savior characters as a practice of them being the illumination and illuminating. And that's the gift. The gift is the illumination of your third eye. So you then see more towards either towards the spiritual and up towards God, or towards the flesh and down towards the devil. So you either solidify yourself more in this place, or you solidify yourself more in that place. Upper 3 chakras or the lower 3 chakras, whatever wolf you feed, whether you're feeding the devil on your left shoulder or the conscience on your right shoulder, or the devil on your shoulder or the angel on your right shoulder. So whichever one you're feeding is what you start to become. So if you're becoming in service to others, you will continue on that path. If you're aware of it and you live your life that way, you won't have to worry about when you're doing it because you're constantly in service to others. If you're in service to self, you will only get that information because you will constantly be in service to self, and you will only get that coal, and that acts the same as a release when you have sex, the endorphins in your body, which solidify you in this place. But if you use that sex at that time, you use that energy. If you don't, then you get that energy in the spiritual. Okay. And one is eating of the tree of life and living in the flesh, and the other is not. And it's eating of the tree of God, the Christ oil. So eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, said Jesus. The food that you will get, that you will not be hungry and you will not be thirsty, because the food that I give you is not of this earth. Do you remember those words? If you're Christian, you know those words, because that is the food of the gods that you're getting by not eating of the tree of life at that point, only eating of the tree of life when God says that you can. So that is the gift of the Magi. Isn't that crazy? Right? Okay, let's continue. So the indigo, is the indigo the third eye? Is that what it is? The pale blue is the throat. See, that's why I said I wasn't sure, because I get them mixed up, right? So the pale blue, indigo, and then the violet, right? So the violet is the crown chakra. Thank you, Joanne, because I always get that messed up. I don't know why. I have a problem with that. Light blue, dark blue, and then the violet. Okay, so the indigo would be the third eye, and that's where you do the manifestation of the creation. So the creation comes from love, which is the sixth energy in your heart of the chakra, which is the fourth chakra, but it's the sixth energy, and then it's the 3, 6, and 9. So this place is 3. You take your intention and you give it to the 3, and that becomes 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. So then it moves to your heart chakra, and now you have a potentiation to do something. And then you take your intention again with love now, because it's from the heart, and you give love to the 6, and it becomes 9, which is now the potentiation to be the alpha and the omega. Okay. So then when you take your intention again in this creation to what to do with that potentiated energy, then it becomes 12. 9 plus 3 is 12. Now it becomes the God particle, which 12 is 1 plus 2, right? 1 and 2, which is 3. Again, it becomes the cycle. Do you see? It's a multiple of 3. So if you add 3, and this is where people get confused, if you add 3 to 12, what does it become? Right? 12 plus 3 is 15. What is 15 but 1 and 5, which is 6? So now you're talking about doubling the heart chakra. Do you see? And that's confusing for some people because they don't understand the Pythagorean theorem. So if you understand Pythagorean math from 5,000 years ago or 4,500 years ago, then you understand what I'm saying there when I'm reducing it to its common decibel. So 15 is 1 and 5, which is 6. Okay, so then you would have to go above that again to get 18, which is 1 and 8, which is 9. That's another 3. So that's going into 4D and 5D thinking of the same manifestation. So in this place, 3, 6, and 9 is all you have to worry about because 3 is nature, 6 is your heart, that's time space, and then 9 is the hex boson, the God creator energy, which is from your illumination. Okay, so you take something from this place, the energy of this place, that's the charm of making. Anal Nathrak, all that is nature. Okay, you're calling to this now as a spell, right? Utva Spethut, end of time space. That's the physical plane plus energy. 4D thinking is now not just the physical place, but it's now the universe itself, right? Do heed my intention. This is my intention. And now you're at the 9 energy where your intention is coming into play, where a thought and what you want to manifest in here. So you're taking control of the matrix, all that is nature and of time space. Heed my intention. Okay. My will, my energy, putting into this matrix to manifest something into this physical place. That's the charm of making. That's the secret of 3, 6, and 9. That is the 3, 6, and 9. Chakra 3, chakra 6, chakra 9. 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So that's the energy, frequency, vibration, energy, physical, frequency, harmonics, love, resonance, right? Manifestation, frequency, energy, frequency, right? So energy and frequency, and then right, and then you're in the crown chakra, and then you're in the astral, right? Do you see? So that is the secret to 3, 6, and 9. Nikola Tesla said that, right? Secret to the universe. Okay. So literally you have to look at that, right? Welcome Rick and welcome Cassie. So you have to realize that. So that is literally the illumination. So you're using the energy, you're using the frequency, and then you're into the astral, which is the vibration. Okay. So you're using that and you're putting your intention into it. So you're the one taking control. I call on the energy of the matrix, this physical place. Right. And then you resonate it in the heart. Energy, frequency. The heart is a frequency of love. Right. So then you give it the potentiation. You're taking this physical place and you're saying, with my love, I am now creating. And this is what I want to create with that. So I'm calling on this place, which is time and space and the physical. And then I'm moving it to this place where I am the creator, the co-creator, and I am manifesting with my ability what I want to potentiate. And when you give it that now you're telling it to do something, then that's adding 3 more, and that's going to the 12, which is the 1 plus 2, which is 3, and that is the God energy of creation is at 12, and that's why it repeats to 24 and then repeats from there, and that becomes 48, and then on and on and on. Okay, and that might be too much for you. Let's continue.
73.11 Questioner. Desire and will are key factors in the process. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. We would add one quality. In the magical personality, desire, will, and polarity are the keys. 73.12 Questioner. I would then assume that the many so-called evangelists which we have in our society at present, many have great desire and very great will, and possibly great polarity. It seems to me that in some cases that there is a lack of information or awareness that creates a less than effective working in the magical sense. Am I correct in this analysis? Ra, I am Ra. You are partially correct. In examining the polarity of a service to others, working the free will must be seen as paramount. Those entities of which you speak are attempting to generate positive changes in consciousness while abridging free will. This causes the blockage of the magical nature of the working except in those cases wherein an entity freely desires to accept the working of the evangelist, as you have called it. 73.13 Questioner: what was the orientation with respect to this type of communication for the one known as Jesus of Nazareth? Ra: I am Ra. You may have read some of this entity's workings. It offered itself as teacher to those mind/body/spirit complexes which gathered to hear and even then spoke as through a veil so as to leave room for those not wishing to hear. When this entity was asked to heal, it oft-times did so, always ending the working with two admonitions. Firstly, that the entity healed had been healed by its faith, that is, its ability to allow and accept changes through the violet ray into the gateway of intelligent energy. Secondly, saying always, tell no one. These are the workings which attempt a maximal quality of free will while maintaining fidelity to the positive purity of the working. 73.
Right. I had always posed that question, and I still do to people when I point out that Jesus said, don't tell anybody about this whenever he would one-on-one work with somebody. Why would he do that? Well, firstly, it's only between the two of them, but also because he's not doing it for the clicks, likes, right? He's not doing it for the reasons of the flesh. So what he was doing was not helping people because he was trying to get people to like him or know who he was until the time was that they were supposed to know who he was. But then he also was supposed to sacrifice himself. So he was setting the example that you're not supposed to be helping people because you're trying to do it for likes, clicks, money, power, fame. You're supposed to be doing it because it's the right thing to do. And so he was showing everybody that he touched with his healings or any other advice that he gave, he would say, don't tell anybody that we had this conversation, or don't pass that on. And they kept saying, well, you should be telling everybody in public. And he said, that time will come when it's supposed to be that time. Right. But before that, he didn't want anybody to because he was humbled, and he was trying to show them through example that you should be doing this because it's the right thing to do, not because you want to get famous for doing this. Do you see? And that's literally what Ra is talking about right there. Okay, let's continue.
3.1.
And you will find that not just in the Christian religion, you will find that in just about every religion. And that's why in the movie that was from Michael Crichton's book, The Eaters of the Dead, which became the 13th Warrior, when Herger was one of the Vikings when they were getting ready to go to sleep to try and bait the Vendée to attack them so they could find out exactly who they were and attack them. They were all going to pretend they were sleeping. And he told Ahmed, the Arab, he said, you can crawl into a hole if you like, but it's not going to change your destiny one iota. Your destiny has been, the skein is tied. The All-Father has woven your life the way it's supposed to be. So you can crawl in a hole if you like, but you're not going to live 1 instant longer. And he said to him, true prophets demand nothing. Do you see? And that was the lesson that Jesus was showing. True prophets demand nothing. So they give you this freely, and you accept it freely of your free will. And this is what Ra is referring to here. That's the lesson. It doesn't mean that Ra is talking about Christianity. That's the lesson that you will hear told in every religion, in every spiritual practice, that that this is, first of all, your free will. You have free will. You have to accept it, or you're not, or you won't get it. So you have, but that's why people have that connotation of people shouldn't be charging money for doing psychic work, because that's kind of instilled in you in the different religions, that you should be doing this because it's something that you should be doing because it's the right thing to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that you should starve to death and be a homeless person because of that. Do you see? And that's been pondered by a lot of people. I even said that, and I talk about it all the time. What are you supposed to be, homeless and walk around in tatters? You can't do that. If you want to live that life was a sacrificial life that Jesus led, and a few others throughout time. They weren't saying you have to live this life, but people misconstrued that when Jesus said that the way to heaven is through me. Oh, that means I have to be poor or a pauper like Jesus was and run around and get yourself executed, to become the martyr. And some religions, the Muslim religion, took that to heart in some aspects. So did the Christians. So did the Hebrews in their fringe sects that were zealots. took that to heart, and they still do it to this day. You see these Muslims that are strap on a bomb and run into somewhere and blow things up because they're told by these clerics that are zealots, not mainstream clerics in their own religion, that when you do this, you sacrifice yourself, you're going to get however many hundreds of billions of virgins to have sex with in heaven, because that's important to God. So God's going to say, I'm going to give you virgins to rape every day, to have sex with them, but you have to kill yourself. And they somehow buy into that, and they did it. The Christians did it, and everybody did it at some point in their religions to get people to sacrifice themselves for a cause that wasn't from God. It was from the evil people who were trying to run the churches, telling you, go kill those people because God wills it. That's what the knights always said, God wills it. And so they would go kill all those people, God wills it. And then they'd all go, God wills it. And then they'll run out there and start murdering people. And it wasn't right. It was wrong. And so in that time of Balian, when he went to Jerusalem, if you watch that movie of Kingdom of Heaven, when he comes walking in and he's being taken before the king, which was played by Ed Norton, but you never see his face because he plays a leper king. When he was going to see them, they were hanging some knights, and the knight who was taking him said they're being hung because they were attacking and raiding people and killing people. And he said, so they're being killed for doing what the Pope told them to do then. And he said, yes, but not Jesus, I think. So the knights that were in charge were killing their own knights because they were robber knights, and they were doing what the Pope in Rome wanted them to do. But these knights that were ruling in Jerusalem were knights of Jesus, and they didn't follow the Pope, they followed Jesus. And that was the beginning of the split between the Templar Knights and the church in Rome, because the Templar Knights followed Jesus's instructions, and they believed that in the laws of Moses or the laws of Jesus, not what the Pope was telling them. And that's why the Pope went after them and abolished them, because they weren't loyal to the Pope. They were loyal to Jesus and Jesus's words, so they had to be eliminated. And that's what happened. And I'm a knight. I was knighted by the Holy Roman Catholic See. So I'm not saying that as a person who is not, who hates that religion or hates I'm a Roman Catholic minister and a Christian priest, right? So literally being knighted by the Holy Roman Catholic See as a Knight of Columbus. But that's what took place in the 1100s, in the 1200s, in the 1300s, 1307, as a matter of fact, when that took place. Okay. So, but that was done because the knights were not loyal to the Pope and doing what the Pope wanted. The Pope wanted money, land, power, and fame. That's what the Pope wanted. And they didn't agree with that. So they were all hunted down by the Pope and the King of France at the time. All right, let's continue.
For questioner, an observation of the working itself by another entity would seem to me to partially abridge free will, in that a seemingly magical occurrence had taken place as a result of the working of an adept. This could be extended to any phenomenon which is other than normally acceptable. Could you speak on this paradox that is immediately the problem of anyone doing healing? Ra, I am Ra. We are humble messengers of the law of one. To us there are no paradoxes. The workings which seem magical and, therefore, seem to infringe upon free will do not, in themselves, do so, for the distortions of perception are as many as the witnesses, and each witness sees what it desires to see. Infringement upon free will occurs in this circumstance only if the entity doing the working ascribes the authorship of this event to itself or its own skills. Those who state that no working comes from it but only through it is infringing upon free will asterisk. Asterisk Ra meant to say, not infringing, on free will. See the next question and answer. 73.15 Questioner, you said that if the entity says that no working comes from it but only through it, it is also infringing. Is that correct?
No.
Ra, I am Ra. This is incorrect.
Yeah.
We said that in that event there is no infringement. 73.16 Questioner, the one known as Jesus accumulated 12 disciples. What was his purpose in having these disciples with him? Ra, I am Ra. What is the purpose of teach/learning if there be no learn/teachers? Those drawn to this entity were accepted by this entity without regard for any outcome. This entity accepted the honor/duty placed upon it by its nature and its sense that to speak was its mission. 73.17 Questioner.
Do you see? So there was no expectation of them to follow him. There was no expectation of anything. And because of that, they saw that he was genuine and they followed him because he didn't demand of them anything. A true prophet demands nothing. He didn't demand of anyone anything at all. Never did he ever demand that. He just did what he was doing, and those people were gravitated towards him, not knowing why. And then he was teaching them and learning from them, and they were learning from him and teaching him. And there's that cycle of learn, teach, learn that becomes the ecosystem. Okay. And so but there's 12. Why? You should look into that number 12. I already talked about that. 12 tribes of Israel. 12 is the number of creation, right? 13 is the God number. And that's where they've tried to make 13 bad luck and evil, when 13 is actually the opposite of that. So everything down here in the flesh is upside down from reality in the spiritual. So if somebody tells you something is bad luck, it's only bad luck in the physical, and it's not in the spiritual, almost always. The number 666, everyone says they translate it wrong in the Bible. If you read the New American Version of the Bible and you read that, they say 666, for it is a human number. That's the wrong translation. If you look up and check with the Hebrew Bible and that wording, it tells you it's not a human number. It is the number of man. Okay. So that would suggest what? Well, the physical place, humans are the beast. Why? It's the physical. Everything that is the physical is the beast. That's why people say it's the nature of the beast. Well, what is the beast? The beast is nature. The beast is third dimensional life. That is the beast. Okay, you are the beast. The Celts called it the dragon. The Vikings called it the dragon. A lot of other cultures called it the dragon. The Japanese and Chinese called it the dragon. Different colored dragons were different energies. And you notice the colors of the dragons were yellow, red, green, blue. They're all the chakras. And those archetypes of the different chakras play into the archetype of the dragons and the colors of the dragons and what they represent. People don't pay attention to that very often. Not in the Western culture anyway. So freely given, prime directive, free will, free teaching, not demanding anything, not expecting anything from anyone. And then he would just talk and he would just teach them. And then he was learning from them. And the Sermon on the Mount proved that he was learning from them. If you watch the Angel Studios, The Chosen, when he was writing his Sermon on the Mount, they're showing you that everything he's saying in the sermon, you're seeing him look at the individual disciples, and he's writing about that disciple in his sermon. So the sermon was just as much for the disciples as it was for all the people that were there on the mount to listen to it, because it was about them and the struggle that they were going through, because each one of them was an archetype. Each one of them were all playing out a part, and they were the chakras and the chakra centers, and some of them were paired up as a chakra, but they were 12, not 7. Why? Because there's more than 7 chakras, and we haven't gotten to that understanding yet on this plane here, and we're still stuck on 7 chakras. But we only knew that there was truly 7 since 1948, when they discovered 3, 6, and 9. Those were the 3 harmonics that were missing. And so they only found that scale that we now know in 1948 on this earth. But people that are born after that, like me and almost everybody that's out there listening around the world, you don't know that it was that literally before that they never discovered the harmonics of 3, 6, and 9, those chakras. Okay, that's the first chakra, the heart chakra, and the crown chakra. We didn't have the harmonics of that. There wasn't even anything to know, and they discovered it. And 1948, when they discovered that, was when they also changed the energy to 440. Once they discovered the harmonic resonance that was the spectrum, they shifted it away from that spectrum up from G major and G minor or G flat to C. And that's what everything is tuned to now, because it solidifies you in this place. And if you're in the matrix, and you're veiled, C sounds perfectly harmonic to you and beautiful. And G, or G major or G minor or G flat, anywhere in the G range, to you seems a little off. But if you're in service to others, it seems oddly attractive, more so correct than C does. So that's why you see people who are spiritual and they're writing music, they will always tune to the lower frequency instead of C. They drop down into G always. So if you hear something and it's done in G, there's a reason for it. They're doing that because that's closer to the hex boson. That's closer to the God energy, the Om energy than C is. All right, let's continue.
In the exercise of the fire, then, I assume that the healer would be working with the same energy that we spoke of as entering through the crown chakra. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct with some additional notation necessary for your thought in continuing this line of study. When the magical personality has been seated in the green ray energy center for healing work, the energy then may be seen to be the crystalline center through which body energy is channeled. Thus this particular form of healing uses both the energy of the adept and the energy of the upward spiraling light. As the green ray center becomes more brilliant, and we would note this brilliance does not imply overactivation but rather crystallization, the energy of the green ray center of the body complex spirals twice. Firstly, clockwise from the green ray energy center to the right shoulder, through the head, the right elbow, down through the solar plexus, and to the left hand. This sweeps all the body complex energy into a channel which then rotates the great circle clockwise again from right. We correct this instrument from the left to the feet, to the right hand, to the crown, to the left hand, and so forth. Thus the incoming body energy, crystallized, regularized, and channeled by the adept's personality reaching to the green ray energy center, may then pour out the combined energies of the adept which is incarnate, thus offering the service of healing to an entity requesting that service.
Okay, so if you watch Parabola, the video by Tool, at the end of that video, the last thing you see is the character in the video picks up a leaf and holds it up, and the leaf gets away from him, starts floating and turns into fire with an eyeball in it, becomes the Kundalini fire energy, goes down to the feet, separates into two, and the lights in the hands, the eyes in the hands are looking down while the body's looking down, the hands are looking down, and the fire looks and comes into the feet and then goes up and is spiraling up the Kundalini fire of the masculine and feminine, and the hands are watching it as it comes up, and then it crosses over at the heart chakra, and the heart chakra grows and crystallizes, and then the energy then flows through the body, and then it goes up and does the same thing to the third eye, and then it expands the consciousness out, and that's how the video ends. It expands out, and you see the go from the person to expanding out the crown chakra, and then the energy returning back to the universe, and then it pans up from there, and the body disappears and becomes one with the universe itself. So the whole entire video starts with from the beginning of creation to the flesh, from the flesh through the ego, through the id, and then to wonderment, and then to the third eye, and then finds the energy from nature, and it becomes the 3, 6, and 9, and the energy of the Kundalini going up and expanding the consciousness. That's what the entire song is about. If you listen to the song and words and then watch that video by Tool, and it's called Parabola. I just sent it to like Brooke, if she's still here, just the other day. I sent it to her night before last, I think, or last night, for her to watch, and she was showing it to her son, who was like, "What are you watching?" Because it starts out with these guys, and it's kind of like that's very strange to most people how it begins and what happens. It's not. Most people don't get it until midway through or towards the end. If they know anything about spirituality, but if you're listening to the words of the song at the same time as seeing the visuals, and you know about spirituality and the veiling and piercing the veil and the Kundalini energy and the expansion of your consciousness, it makes more sense. If you don't know all that, it's kind of confusing for some people. And she was laughing, and I could hear her son going, "What are you watching? What is this? I don't understand what I'm seeing." And she was laughing, and I was laughing because he's just too young to understand what he was seeing. And I told her, fast forward to the end and just let him watch the Kundalini fire part of the video. He might accept that. And she said, he'll be back. He'll think about it and he'll be back. I said, when he does, just make sure he sees it to the end. That might help him. So yeah, the heart chakra is the green chakra. So then that's what Ra is talking about, is when it hits the green and it expands the green chakra, and then it starts to crystallize. When you balance all of your chakras properly, they will then start to crystalline. And if you constantly keep all of your chakras balanced, then they will start to crystallize, and then that becomes exponentially more powerful. And if you're aware of the Kundalini energy and you're pulling the Kundalini energy up at the same time, and you're aware of the Christ oil and the Kundalini and how the Kundalini and the Kunda buffer energy transmutes this energy and this oil and your chakras, then that alchemy, that sexual right alchemy that you don't spend through sex at that time, when you track your time of the month, when the sun or the moon moves into your sun sign. Like right now, the moon is in Virgo for the next 2.5 days. So I'm a Virgo. So anybody who's a Virgo, you have to make sure that you don't drink alcohol, you don't have sex, and you don't eat crap food, and you meditate for the next 3 days, because that oil is sitting dormant in your brain right now at the base of your hippocampus, right at the top of your optic thalamus, or right at the bottom of your optic thalamus, at the top of the claustrum, right at the bottom of the third eye, waiting to illuminate. It's right now it's crucified, it's dead, and then at the end of the 3 days, it's the Christ oil resurrection and the illumination and the light of the world, when Jesus becomes the light of the world, or the Savior becomes the light of the world, and the illumination of your spirit. If you're in service to others, it'll illuminate all of your brain cells, and it actually uplifts your vibration more and more, and pulls you up towards God every month. If you live your life by that cycle that you're supposed to, which all of the prophets, not just Jesus, all of them were talking about throughout time. They were all talking about the same thing, and all religions and all ways of life, going all the way back to the Atlanteans, knew about this, physiologically knew about what was going on in our bodies and how to track it. That's how we still know about it today. We didn't make this up. This is stuff that came from, literally came from the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians. So it went to the Mesopotamians, and everyone says it's the oldest scroll. It's not. The Illumined Elish is not the oldest scroll. Those people said they got it from the Arcadians, and the Arcadians were Greeks. So when you go to the Greeks, they say they got it from the Egyptians. So when you go back to Egypt, which everybody says is the oldest, the Egyptians with Hermes Trismegistus, he got it from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, from Thoth the Atlantean, who was here in Atlantis. So it goes back to the civilization that they say died out off of the earth 77,000 years ago. Okay. So that scroll, that ideology, which has been passed down to all of these religions all around the world, comes from a time that is at least 77,000 years old, minimum. Okay. This has been proven by the theologians around the world. That's how I know it, being a theologian. Okay. That is, so people will keep saying that the Mesopotamian scroll is the oldest known scroll to the world. It's not. The Mesopotamian people say that scroll is a copy that came from Arcadia, and Arcadia was Greek. And the Greeks said that was a copy of a scroll they got from the Egyptians. And the Egyptians say that was a copy of a scroll that they got from this other civilization, the Atlanteans. Then when they found where Hermes was buried at the base of the statue underground was a copy where they found the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So because Hermes had that, they buried it with him. He didn't write it. Some say it was that he was Thoth the Atlantean reincarnated as Hermes. Okay, some say he just learned it because he read it. I don't know the answer to that because I haven't looked, but it's just as possible that it was Thoth reincarnated as Hermes at the time, thousands of years later, 70,000 years after his own death or disappearance, when Thoth went through to the center of the earth, by the way, and that 0 point energy, 0 point where your heart chakra is the center of the universe, is where God is, according to Thoth the Atlantean. Okay, let's continue.
This basic situation is accomplished as well when there is an entity which is working through a channel to heal. 73.18 Questioner. Could you tell me how this transfer of light, I believe it would affect the patient to be healed? Ra, I am Ra. The effect is that of polarization. The entity may or may not accept any percentage of this polarized life energy which is being offered. In the occasion of the laying on of hands, this energy is more specifically channeled and the opportunity for acceptance of this energy similarly more specific. It may be seen that the King's Chamber effect is not attempted in this form of working but rather the addition to one, whose energies are low, the opportunity for the building up of those energies. Many of your distortions called illnesses may be aided by such means. 73.19 Questioner, I'll make a general statement which you can correct. The way I see the overall picture of healer and patient is that the one to be healed has, because of a blockage in one of the energy centers or more, but we will just consider one particular problem. Because of this energy center blockage, the upward spiraling light that creates one of the 7 bodies has been blocked from the maintenance of that body, and this has resulted in a distortion from the perfection of that body that we call disease or a bodily anomaly which is other than perfect. The healer, having suitably configured its energy centers, is able to channel light, the downward pouring light, through its properly configured energy situation to the one to be healed. If the one to be healed has the mental configuration of acceptance of this light, the light then enters the physical complex and reconfigures the distortion that was created by the original blockage. I am sure that I have made some mistakes in that. Would you please correct them? Ra, I am Ra. Your mistakes were small. We would not, at this time, attempt a great deal of refinement of that statement as there is preliminary material which will undoubtedly come forward. We may say that there are various forms of healing. In many, only the energy of the adept is used. In the exercise of fire, some physical complex energy is also channeled. We might note further that when the one wishing to be healed, though sincere, remains unhealed, as you call this distortion, you may consider pre-incarnative choices, and your more helpful aid to such an entity may be the suggestion that it meditate upon the affirmative uses of whatever limitations it might experience. We would also note that in these cases the indigo ray workings are often of aid. Other than these notes, we do not wish to further comment upon your statement at this working. 73.20 Questioner, it seems to me that the primary thing of importance for those on the service to others path is the development of an attitude which I can only describe as vibration. This attitude would be developed through meditation, ritual, and a developing appreciation for the creation or creator, which results in a state of mind that can only by me be expressed as an increase in vibration or oneness with all. Could you expand and correct that statement? Ra, I am Ra. We shall not correct this statement but shall expand upon it by suggesting that to those qualities you may add the living day by day and moment by moment, for the true adept lives more and more as it is. 73.21 Questioner.
And why is it that they are seeking a vibration? Energy, frequency, vibration. Energy, frequency, vibration, 369. Right? Do you see?
Thank you. Could you tell me of the number of possible energy transfers between 2 or more mind/body/spirit complexes? Is it very large, or are there few and notable? Ra, I am Ra. The number is infinite, for is not each mind/body/spirit complex unique? 73.22 Questioner, could you define this statement, energy transfer between 2 mind/body/spirit complexes? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This entity still has transferred energy available, but we find rapidly increasing distortions towards pain in the neck, the dorsal area, and the wrists and manual appendages. The physical energy transfer may be done numerous ways. We shall give 2 examples. Each begins with some sense of the self as creator or in some way the magical personality being invoked. This may be consciously or unconsciously done. Firstly, that exercise of which we have spoken called the exercise of fire, this is, though physical energy transfer, not that which is deeply involved in the body complex combinations. Thusly the transfer is subtle and each transfer unique in what is offered and what is accepted. At this point we may note that this is the cause for the infinite array of possible energy transfers. The second energy transfer of which we would speak is the sexual energy transfer. This takes place upon a non-magical level by all those entities which vibrate green ray active. It is possible, as in the case of this instrument which dedicates itself to the service of the one infinite creator, to further refine this energy transfer. When the other self also dedicates itself in service to the one infinite creator, the transfer is doubled.
So this is why the sexual, right, alchemy that people like think is occulted these days, because meaning in secret, because that's what that word means, by the way. It doesn't mean what everybody thinks it means. When they say something is a cult, that just means truly the word just means that it's secret. It's occulted, meaning that it's kept away from the public. But that would be esoteric or exoteric, right? Esoteric meaning internalized, exoteric meaning externalized, where we get the word exit from in our language, our English language. So from exoteric, and esoteric meaning to internal, internalized. So the sacred comes from the word secret comes from sacred, sacral plexus, right? Secret. So that literally that transfer of energy, what they're talking about here, is the sexual right alchemy that is part of the Kundalini that you could tap into and use at any other time. That is not bad. And Cassie, if she's still here, she asked that question a few weeks ago when we were talking about this, about the sexual energy, and how that pertains to the non 3 days of the illumination oil. So you would then raise the energy and charge the Kundalini energy, and then utilize it at another time that is not that time for the illumination of the oils. And literally Ra saying that if both parties are both on the same page and in service to others and aware of what they're doing, they can uplift this energy. And then when they have sex, that would be double the output, meaning when you have more intimate sex with somebody and you're both on the same page when it's that, and you're not just having sex for the physical act of having sex, that it's intimate sex, and that you are doing it because you care about one another, and you're doing that, you'll find that the sex will be better by far, double the euphoric effect of sex. That's why people who are in love have better sex than people who are just having sex with other people. But then if you're deviant and you're in service to self, then that gets a different euphoric effect and a different endorphin. And that is the, be good for goodness sake, or, you'll get cold. It's a different reward category that lowers your vibration and puts you into the physical. So the physical act of sex being used in that ritualistic way is done. That's why you see both traditions of positive religions and negative religions having sex to do casting of spells and rituals and ritualistic magic. Pardon me. And if you watch or read the Da Vinci Code, she stumbles on her grandfather, Jacques Songier, how do you say his last name? She stumbles onto him as a kid when she came back from school early, and they were having some ritual, and she mistook it for something evil and ran away. And only was later when she was talking to Robert Langdon that he was just telling her, and they didn't really cover it as fully in the movie as they did in the book, but he was telling her that some rituals have that sexual right alchemy in it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're evil by doing that, but that they're doing it for some purpose that has to do with the religion or casting of spells or bringing about different things that they don't teach you anymore in religion. So they tell you that's taboo, and that it's only evil, that if you're having sex, it's somehow evil. And if you're doing it in a religious way, which they do behind the scenes, you just don't know about it, that if you're doing that in some religious way, that it's the devil or a demon. Why? Because they don't want you to expand your consciousness, so you're not supposed to learn the alchemy side of spirituality. They tell you that alchemy is magic and it's evil and it's the dark arts, and they only show you examples of people who were doing things for nefarious reasons using alchemy or any kind of ritualistic magic or sex. So they do that to control people, to keep you solidified in this place in the third dimension, and that your function is to just come to church and we'll tell you what you're supposed to think. right? And then in the modern Christian churches, when you go there, they're teaching you that it's more about a relationship with God. And that's all they're trying to teach you. And what is that relationship? Just keep coming back here and we'll tell you what it is. And then they put you on their curriculum, 2, 3, and 5-year curriculum, to where you don't actually learn anything. They're teaching you more of things from an old school perspective of 1,000 years ago, when there wasn't public schools or colleges for the average person. You had to be the elite or class or the ruling class to get to go to schools and be taught and become a philosopher or a doctor or anything else, politician or any of that. All the plebes, all the slaves, they never got to go to school. So the churches were trying to teach people by, when they would go to school, all the kids would go to Sunday school while the parents were being taught adult things. The kids were being taught kid things, child things. And then eventually when people opened schools that were non-denominational and non-religious in aspect, and they were secular, they were just teaching people about stuff, mathematics and things like that. They started having the separation of church and state because they didn't want even people to go to the churches, because we're still teaching about a God and something above this place. So they had to have the separation of church and state. You couldn't have one religion telling the other religion how to run their stuff. So the religion of evil controlling the masses became the school system that you currently have and the colleges that you currently have around the world, teaching you everything only in the physical and not teaching you things that you need. They're not teaching you how to balance your budget. They're not teaching you how to balance your checkbook. They're not teaching you how to manage your money anymore, but they'll teach you how to work at a metal shop and a wood shop, because they want you to be a worker bee, not an entrepreneur. So they don't want you to understand how to deal with money to become a business owner and to be successful. They want you to get a job working for one of their companies only and not know how to take care of your money. So therefore you live paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not making this up. Look it up. Look around yourself. If you went to school, if you're above the age of 40, you never got any training on finance or anything that had to do with socialism, not even the idea of socialism as a political party. Okay, so you never got any social studies, you never got any economics, you never got any world economics, you never got any business, you don't know how to balance a checkbook, balance your savings or checking account. You don't know how to manage your own money. You don't know how to do your own taxes. You don't know any of that because it's not taught to you anymore. But they have you take a shop class or a cooking class or a sewing class, because that's the class they're teaching you to be. Okay? Worker, not entrepreneur, not business owner, not successful. It's the very people who look at successful people and say, I want to be like them. What do I need to learn? How do I find that? And then they find somebody, a counselor, and ask them, what do I need? And well, you need to learn these aspects. So let's look at that. And if a true prophet demands nothing, if the person is a true counselor in service to others, they'll encourage you to take these courses when you get to college. You need to start learning about this. Or if you're in high school, they'll say, we don't teach that here, but you need to go to the libraries and start looking this up, or go on the internet and look up these specific things and start taking these courses in college. And then when you get into college, you'll start on the track of looking for the courses that are going to teach you to be successful, and taking the prerequisites of the other courses that they need you to take and they're making you take, and you'll work harder because you want to be successful. Most people never go down that road, never ask those questions. And the only thing college ever teaches them is how to get a job as a menial job that it just barely gets you to have a menial existence or a median income existence, but never upper crust. They don't want you to become their competition and knock them out of the way. So it's very few people that ever rise to that and never get that stuff. Okay. I know, right? I was having phlegm problems. I should have taken a drink of water. Penny said, drink water, Leo. Right. So yeah, I need more hydration. I haven't been drinking enough, and I know that. That's why I have my glass here, and I've already drank most of it, but I should be drinking some more. Okay. Right. And Joanne said, me and my son were just talking about that very same thing a few years ago. So true. Right. They don't teach you that stuff anymore. And so you have to look for it. You have to have somebody in your life that knows these things enough to say, you need to take these courses, civics, right? If you don't take civics, you don't understand how the society works. You need to take economics, global economics. If you don't take those courses, you don't know how the global economics works. You don't know how the rich people are staying rich and why, and how your money affects you and everybody else, and then it all trickles up to 1%. You don't know this stuff, okay? Unless someone teaches you that. All you know is, I want to be an influencer on TikTok, right? Which is going to be shut off here in the United States on Sunday. It's going to be banned from the United States until then on Monday, the inauguration. So on Tuesday, Donald Trump will probably sign a thing to turn it back on. But it's going to, unless they can get a stay of execution, it's going to be turned off and then turned back on, right? And that's neither here nor there. But the information that the Chinese Communist government is taking from the people around the world, you should look into it. When you accept terms of agreement on an app, you should read that. You should actually read what you're giving them access to before you hit that. Most people don't. They just go, yep, hurry up. I want to sign in and I want to be on the app because all my friends are. And your friends didn't read it either. So they have no idea what you're signing. You could be signing away your soul. They haven't tried it yet because people actually do read it. If nobody read it and nobody would ever talk about what's in it, you would already be signed away your soul and you would be owned property of Facebook, Meta, TikTok, one of these platforms, Google. They would own you outright as a slave because that's what they would do. But because people like me will sit through that and read it and then publish that and tell people, Joe Rogan just did it when they were talking about TikTok. He read all of the stuff, had his people in his, for his podcast, go through it and read it. And he was reading it on his podcast of the information that you agree to give to TikTok that goes to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, I'm not saying that Google's not doing that, because they are. And I'm not saying that Instagram's not doing it, because they are. I'm not saying Facebook's not doing it, because they are. Okay? They're doing the exact same thing that TikTok is doing. Okay? I was deplatformed off of Google 3 years ago come March because they had more access than they were supposed to have. And during an update that I said yes to, I was giving them all this access. And when I updated my software for anti-malware and the like, the software kicked it out and said, Google has access to everything. We need to downsize the access to what they're supposed to have their access to. And it pissed them off because I had agreed to their terms of service, which gave them access to my bank accounts, passwords, everything in my entire life, all of my medical history, my doctors, every conversation that I had on every platform. Google, if you use it today, you're giving them that information. Okay. You should look at the terms of service and read it. So when I downgraded them, they deplatformed me and deleted more than 500 episodes of my podcast off of YouTube and deleted my channel, my Orion Rising channel, which they never gave back to me. Okay. That's why on YouTube right now, I only have like 115 followers, and I'm almost to 1,000 videos, but it's not all my show. It's all the memes that I post. I post one a day, right? So if I've posted for 3 years, you're looking at 1,000 posts just in the reels that I make every single day. But I've been doing my show on there now for the 3 years. So that's, upwards around whatever that works out to be, 365 times 3, right? So what is that? That's almost 1,000 videos. So you have to realize that they're doing this and they're taking a lot more liberties and they're selling the information. They're getting rich off of you as a product, and you're not getting a cent for it. And Kevin O'Leary, who is trying to buy TikTok, he said he wants to give some of the money back to the people, that he wants to do that and make you an affiliate. So if he's going to buy TikTok and own the algorithm or create another algorithm and do what Facebook and everybody else is doing, that he wants to then, if you're on the platform, you will agree to the terms of service and you get paid some of the money to give them access to be able to sell your stuff, and then you get a cut. So I say that would be a good thing. Won't happen, because that would mean that the rich and the elite are going to, and when they're going to make $1 trillion, we're all going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year off them selling our product. Me as a product, I'm going to get like 1% or 2% or 10% of the profit that they make. They don't want to do that because they'll make everybody rich. They can't do that because they have to be richer than everybody else, because they want the class. They want to be in charge. So if they start making everybody rich, the price of everything will go up. That's like raising the minimum wage for work. If you raise it up to $20 an hour, they're going to charge you $20 for a burger at the same fast food restaurant that you're going to get paid $20 an hour, where before you were getting paid $10 an hour and that meal deal was $9.99. So it's going to just go in line. So then that means that a car will go from $75,000 to $250,000, and a house that was going for $250,000 will now be $3 million because you have that extra disposable income. So the cost of living will just go up. So a gallon of milk will be $35 or $45 instead of what it is today. I think it's like $5 or $7 or some shit, right? So a pound of bacon, which is $7, will be $100 because you'll have all this excess money. So the more money you make, the only way that the prices stay low is that the rich have all the money. If the rich have all the money, the prices stay low. That's the price you pay for being lazy and not farming your own food. If you farm your own food, you don't have as much time in the day to play around. But if you farm your own food, you don't have to go to work for somebody else because you have your own food. So then you only have to have electricity and water and garbage running. And if you trade other people or sell some of your products that you are farming to other people, then you can pay for those things. And if you do it right, you can go live off the grid completely. They don't want you doing that. Because if everybody does that, they go out of business because you don't actually need them. So if you're aware of that, first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. It's a choice. If you want to be lazy and you don't want to learn how to cook and you don't want to take care of yourself, you're never going to have money because you're going to be chasing it all the time. He who grasps at it will never, or he who gropes at it will never grasp it. He who searches for it will never find it. Okay? Because they have you chasing around in the flesh for something that is supposed to be a spiritual thing that you're supposed to be able to find. So if you chase them, you go and buy something at a fast food restaurant. That means you have to pay somebody to grow that, whatever it is that you're going to eat, whether it's fruits, vegetables, or beef or meat. If somebody has to cultivate that and then transport it and then get it ready for consumption and then give it to the people who process it and give it to you, and then they have to pay for all of everything in between. So that's why the prices are so high. Same thing in the stores. If you're cooking for yourself and you go to the store and you buy things, you're going to find that your cost of living is going to decrease by 75%. If you're growing your own foods and you live on land and grow your own food, you see it's going to decrease even more. So you don't need as much money, which means you don't have to go to work for somebody else. And that frees up your time. So you have to go out and work in the fields and do that. But that's not going to take your entire day. But they have you believing that it'll be physically laboring and it'll take your whole entire day and you won't be able to have fun with your friends. Go and talk to somebody who's a farmer and you'll find out they have more time on their hands than you think they do because they don't have to worry about going and commuting, going to a job, working 10, 12 hours a day, commuting back home, paying for all the car and all the stuff that they have to do, going to the store and buying all that stuff, standing in all those lines that take up your day. I wrote a book about it and I broke it down for you and how much time it took you and how much money it took you to do all the things that, or when you're living in the flesh, when you're not doing it for yourself. When you go and buy a coffee at Starbucks that costs, $7 to $14. If you took the $7 coffee that you buy every single day, at least one coffee a day, 7 days a week, and you put that in your pocket or set it in a coffee can on your counter, you're going to find that by the end of the month, you're going to have like $400 or $500 sitting there. Take that same money and buy your own espresso machine and make your own coffee before you go to work on your own espresso machine. Instead of paying $7 a day, you're going to pay 25 cents a day. But you're going to cost up front the same amount of money that 1 month of the coffees out there are going to cost you. But after that, it's 25 cents a cup, 25 cents a coffee for every day. And it takes you like four and a half minutes, maybe 5 minutes to make. And well, I don't have time for that. Yes, you do. Driving from your house to go sit in line and order it in line and wait in line for them to give it to you actually takes you 25 minutes. So when you stop standing in line and sitting in line to pick something up and pay all this money for it, and your car is burning gas and oil while you're sitting there doing that, it's costing you more money. When you make it at your house and spend that extra 5 or 10 minutes or even say 15 minutes at your own home, you're saving somewhere around $30 because it's going to cost you all that money in gas and toll and stuff to go to the place. Well, I just get it on the way to work. You're trying to justify yourself. I also did the math on that. If you go and get a coffee and you go and get a breakfast something on your way to work and you sit in the line and you pay the money for that. By the time you get to work, you're in the hole more than $20. If you're making $20 an hour, that means you have to work an entire hour of your job just to pay for the trip to work. Then if you leave and go and get a lunch, it's going to cost you another $20 by the time you get back. And then if you go and get something on the way home, that's another $20. So $60 you have now paid to go to work and home from work for one day, and you're only getting paid about $120 for that day. So half of your paycheck is spent just going to work and coming back. So you're only making, instead of $20 an hour, your net is only $10 an hour. You're only taking home $60 a day instead of $120 a day because you're spending 60 of it driving around and sitting in lines and buying fast food before you get home. You're unaware of that because you don't know how to balance your books. So you're not even looking at your paycheck. You're just used to doing it because you do it. And so you don't realize that half of your pay is going out the window for the fast food and the coffee that you're getting to go back and forth to work, and the gas that it takes you sitting in line everywhere, and the time that it takes for you to get out and walk into places and stand in line to buy that stuff. When if you manufactured it, you made your own lunch, and you ate your breakfast at home while you were making your coffee, and then you drove to work, and then you ate your lunch at work, and then you came home, you would have double the pay in your bank account and more time on your hands because you spent an extra 15 minutes at home instead of an extra 2 hours driving around town before work, during lunch, and on the way home. But you don't think about that because no one points that out to you. And you get lazy and you don't want to do it for yourself, or you never learn how to do it for yourself. Okay. So that's unfortunate, right? Okay, let's finish this because we're almost done with the session. Let's go ahead and finish it.
Then the amount of energy transferred is dependent only upon the amount of polarized sexual energy created and released. There are refinements from this point onward leading to the realm of the high sexual magic. In the realm of the mental bodies, there are variations of mental energy transferred. This is, again, dependent upon the knowledge sought and the knowledge offered. The most common mental energy transfer is that of the teacher and the pupil. The amount of energy is dependent upon the quality of this offering upon the part of the teacher as regards the purity of the desire to serve and the quality of information offered, and, upon the part of the student, the purity of the desire to learn and the quality of the mind vibratory complex which receives knowledge. Another form of mental energy transfer.
Right. So look at that. Right. So Sherry was saying the meals are $19.90 at fast food and some more than that. Yeah. And they're out of control. And if you live in the state of California, it's more than that because of the cost of living out here, and they raised the minimum wage for fast food restaurants to $20 an hour out here. So if you're in other states, it's not quite as bad, but it still is because the cost of living has gone up because the people are wanting more money. So that's not the key. That's not the way to success. Everybody thinks I want a raise, I want more money, and that's going to solve things. It doesn't, because the second they give you more money, they raise what it costs to augment what they're paying you. And then you eat at same fast food restaurants, and you have to pay that money because they have to pay their employees more money. So now they're trying to get rid of all of you guys by making to where AI is now going to be taking the orders, and they're going to figure out a way to get the AI to cook food soon. Right now, they have a kiosk where you order the stuff, or when you go to the drive-thru, you're starting to talk to an AI who's taking your order, and then humans got to cook it for you. Eventually, they're going to get rid of the people that are serving you, and then they're going to get rid of the people in the back, and you're going to have robots serving you, and then there's going to be no jobs. And then the service industry is going to be people. You're going to have to then learn how to manufacture and repair robots. Otherwise, you won't have a job. Okay, and people that are service to self, they don't care. They're like, I don't care. I want it that way. It's faster that way. And because they don't have kids. Usually people in service to self don't have kids, not always, but they don't care because they only care about themselves. Same thing when people go to self-checkout. It's faster. I want to go to a self-checkout. What you're doing is you're getting rid of the jobs of all the people that were there before that had jobs to ring people up, because you're impatient. You're standing in line and you're like, oh my God, what's going on? Why is there? Then you go over to the self-checkout and then you're, oh my God, these people don't know what they're doing. Well, they're working for the company for free, and so are you. So you're doing the job that somebody used to get paid to do, and no longer are they paying a human to do it because you're stupid enough to do it for free. Okay. And then eventually they're going to get rid of all the employees because they're already toying with that idea in the United States. I don't know about in the countries you live in, where you walk into a place and they use AI to look at your face and realize who you are. And then they have access, because you have to give them access to your bank account. and then they automatically follow you with cameras and everything you put into your cart. And when you walk out the door, they charge you for all of it. So they're going to get rid of all humans in stores, and you're just going to walk around the store, and you can't get in the store and get out of the store without paying for something. So you can't fake it and put on a hood and run in, because the door, they're already starting to work on that, to where if you do that, you'll get locked in. They'll call the police on you. So you can't steal things. Okay. So they're already working that out with the police, because you're going to have people that are going to be mad on the inside. That are going to be stuck inside the store trying to rob the place, who don't have money in their bank account to pay for things. Okay. So eventually what they're going to do is, originally they're going to start letting you steal it, but they're going to look at your facial rec. So they're going to not allow you to come into stores if you're blocking your face, because they need to know who you are. Okay. So what they'll start doing is, you'll have to walk up and insert your card in the door to come in and log in. That's what they're working on now. Okay. So you can't get in the store to rip things off unless you do that and you push somebody in, and then there's too many of you in there, then that person will get charged. So that's where crime's going to be. So they're already, look, I can think of it. So that means that criminals are going to think of it. And that means corporations are thinking of it as well. So they'll have to have guards on hand so that doesn't happen. So there's going to be at least one employee for a while, until people get away from that idea, until they hammer out those things. Right. But they know exactly what we're doing. Right. Sherry was saying that because they track you. They track you because you give them access to your stuff, and they're actually aware of where you're spending money and how much you're spending money on what. So they say they're tracking your phone, and you talk about something and your phone hears it. And the next thing you know, you get a commercial for it. How did that happen? I was just talking to somebody about that, and I got a commercial for that. That happens all the time. Right. Yeah, and so that's exactly it. So you feel you're doing better. Sherry's saying this again, that you feel that you're doing better because you want to get a raise, so they give you more money. You feel that you're doing better, but if you're not, if you buy into their matrix and you go out and buy fast food and you live off fast food, first of all, it's terrible for you and it's killing you, but you're unaware of that because you're young and you don't care and you think you're immortal. So by the time you hit your 30s and 40s, then you start having medical problems. And you don't know why, that you're 100 pounds overweight, and you start becoming diabetic and all this. If you're an American, that's normal, because that happens to everybody right now. Hopefully that'll change with Donald Trump getting into office and them changing the whole entire idea of nutrition in this country the way it should be. But if you buy into this whole thing, then you get all this money and you think, all right, I'm doing good. Then they raise the prices of everything, and then you don't realize right away that $20 an hour is going exactly the same distance as what you were getting paid when you were only getting paid $10 an hour. You only have the same amount of money because you have more, but you're spending more for everything. And this is what people don't understand, because you've never taken economics, so you don't understand it. When I was a little boy, it cost 25 cents for a gallon of gasoline. It cost 33 cents for a pack of cigarettes. Because I remember as a kid, my father handing me the receipt after getting a pack of cigarettes for himself. 33 cents for a pack of cigarettes. And I'd go to the gas station and my grandfather would say, give me 2 bits or 4 bits worth of gas. Give me, 50 cents. And that was 2 gallons of gas. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, the minimum wage when I started working at 18 years of age, the minimum wage in the United States was $2.50 an hour. $2.50, not $20, $2.50. But a tank of gas, right, a gallon of gas at that time was like 75 cents. Okay. A movie ticket was 25 cents for a movie. They raised it up to 50 cents for a matinee, a double feature. 50 cents to watch a movie. Okay. And then it became like $2 to watch a movie when it went up to from $2.50 to $3 an hour. So then it was like $2 for a movie. Now they're, what are they, $20 for a movie? $20 an hour, $20 for a movie, $20 for a meal deal. Do you see? So it goes the exact same distance. I made $2.50 an hour and paid $2 to watch a movie, and 50 cents to get the back and forth from the movie with gasoline. And I would go to McDonald's and it was $2.50 for a Big Mac and fries and a Coke. Now you make $20 an hour. It's $20 for a ticket for a movie, $20 for gasoline, $20 for a meal deal. It goes just as far as it went before. You think you have more money because your paycheck is $1,000 when before it was $200, but the $200 went just as far as the $1,000 goes now. Do you see? If you don't know that, you don't realize that, you think I make $20 an hour. And when you were a kid, you only made $2 an hour. I'm making way more than you. The cost of living is equal, and you're unaware of it. So you're not making any more money than I was making when I first started working. You're making the exact same amount of disposable income because the price of everything augments your money that you made exactly the same way the price of everything augmented the money that I made when I was only making $2.50 an hour. Do you see? So that means that from when I was a boy till now, the average person has gone nowhere. Their money has just kept them alive. From when I got a job the very first time at 18 to you guys getting a job today. The amount of money that you have in your bank extra is the same amount of money that I had in my bank extra. Nothing. And that's where they keep you. So the only way that you can get ahead is that you have to change that dynamic in some way. It's the same thing with spirituality. You have to change the dynamic so that you can better yourself. And how do you do that? You have to look into it. Let me finish this.
Is that of the listener and the speaker. When the speaker is experiencing mental/emotional complex distortions towards anguish, sorrow, or other mental pain, from what we have said before, you may perhaps garner knowledge of the variations possible in this transfer. The spiritual energy transfers are at the heart of all energy transfers, as a knowledge of self and other self as creator is paramount, and this is spiritual work. The varieties of spiritual energy transfer include those things of which we have spoken this day as we spoke upon the subject of the adept. Are there any brief queries before we leave this working? 73.23 Questioner. Only if there is anything we can do to improve the comfort of the instrument or the contact. And secondly, is there anything that you wish not published in today's session? Ra, I am Ra. We call your attention to two items. Firstly, it is well that the candle which spirals 10 degrees each working be never allowed to gutter, as this would cause imbalance in the alignment of the appurtenances in their protective role for this instrument. Secondly, we might suggest attention to the neck area so that the cushion upon which it is supported be more comfortable. This difficulty has abbreviated many workings. We thank you, my friends, for your conscientiousness and your fastidiousness with regard to these appurtenances which, as our workings proceed, seems to be increasing. Secondly, your decisions are completely your own as to that material which you may wish published from this working. I am Ra. I leave you glorying in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.
Okay, so, yeah, Peter said in some places in Dublin, did you say Dublin, Peter? Yeah, some places in Dublin, they already track your phone, and you can walk in and they don't have anybody there, and you go shopping, and then you walk out, and it just charges your bank. They're toying with that here in the United States as well. They have it in some places already. And that's what they want to do. So they want to get rid of all workers in the store. So you're going to have people that are going to be stocking the shelves, humans stocking the shelves at night, and that's it. And eventually they'll have robots doing that, and they'll get rid of humans altogether. What are the humans going to do for work? They don't care right now. They're making their money. When that happens and society breaks down, they won't care because they'll be rich. And then they'll hire people to be their bodyguards to keep you away from them. And then you won't have any money, and you'll overthrow the governments, and they won't care because they still own whatever government that you set up. They'll just corrupt the people that are in charge there and take back control, and they'll stay in charge. That's their plan. And they don't care if you guys get mad at one another and start a revolution and kill everybody, because that lowers the population. Do you see? So the answer isn't to overthrow the governments. The answer is to change the optics, to change the narrative. You have to become aware of that you're in a trap that they're perpetuating on purpose. And that's why, right? Sherry said, wow, that timeline is true. It is. I lived it. So that nothing changes. And you think you're making more money, and the truth is you're not. You're making more money, but they're charging you more money for everything. And because of that, you're still making the same amount of money. You just don't know you're making the same amount of money because your bank account has a different number and it's a higher number. And so you think you're making it, but you're spending the exact same amount more for every product. I get $20 an hour. It's $20 for a burger. It's $20 for a movie. it's $7 to $10 a gallon of gasoline. So that's how they get around that. So they're charging you more because they're paying you more. So your money goes just as far as it did before. And that's what they do every time. So they please everybody. You're right. You're worth more money. We're going to give you a raise. And they raise the prices of everything. And you think you have more money for a minute until you realize you don't have any money. And then you go, I got a raise and it doesn't even matter. No, because that's how you drove the prices up by your raise. If you want to drive the prices down, change what you're doing and how you're spending your money. They'll change they did this during COVID, and when the prices went up, people stopped going to restaurants and fast food restaurants, and they started going out of business. They had rollback prices, and they started giving you, they're still trying to do that to incentivize you. Buy this on the app, and you get it at half price. Come in on Tuesdays and get it at half price. They're doing anything they can do to appease people to get them back buying the product, because they know that if they get you back into a routine again, you'll forget about it, and you'll just start paying the regular price again, okay? And that's what they do. That's how they brainwash you into coming back. So you have to realize that stop being lazy. I wrote a book about it. Nobody wanted to buy the book because I told you have to stop being lazy. You have to stop being lazy and start doing things for yourself, right? Learn the things that you don't have anymore, like growing food and having chickens and having goats or cows. And they're making it illegal now to have cows in the city limits, so you can't have milk. You can't have your own cheese. You can't have your own butter. You can't have any kind of dairy, because if you have a cow, that's why they're called dairy cows. If you have a cow, you can make your own stuff. They don't want you doing that, so they're making it illegal. When I was in Arizona, they were doing that. People were buying goats and having goat milk and goat cheese and goat butter and stuff like that. People go, oh my God, that tastes just as good. If you didn't know that it was from a goat, you would drink it and you wouldn't you would think it was just butter. Or it was just milk. You wouldn't even have any clue. Taste almost identical, right? In fact, here's something that people don't know that I do know, and that some people around the world know, that you feed milk to a baby that you get from a cow, and that's actually not very good for your child. You just don't know it because everybody does that. Formula and all of that, because people don't want to milk themselves for their child. Okay. So if you don't want to do that, there is an alternative, but right now it's not widely sold in the United States or around the world, and it's getting bigger, and that's donkey milk. And people are like, oh my God, donkey milk. Donkey milk is actually the closest milk on the face of the earth that is close to human female milk from their breasts. It is almost identical. Donkey milk is almost identical to human milk. It's the closest of any animal on the face of the earth. And everybody goes out and buys milk for your cereal or your coffee or whatever and cream that comes from a cow. And it's okay to drink milk from a cow and feed it to your kids, but that donkey, yucko, I would never do that. And then like goat cheese, and people go, oh my God, it's just milk from another animal. It's not nasty. You just have a psychological effect that you think is nasty for some reason, right? So, Elon Musk said that if we buy a robot, we get paid to put the robot to work, and then he will make money on the robot. This is what he's trying to do in the future, right? So what he's trying to do is give back. If you buy the robot, you'll get paid some of the royalties. And that's what Kevin O'Leary is talking about with wanting to buy TikTok and then wanting to give timeshare to people, that if they're going to sell you as a product, that you get some of the money, that they get some of the proceeds from selling you to the people. You get paid for it. It should be that way. It's called an affiliate. Businesses do that. You become affiliated. And if I have a website and I become affiliated with Amazon, then I advertise Amazon on my website, and anybody that goes from my website to Amazon, if there's a marker when they go to Amazon that they came from my website. So if they buy something after they came from my website and went to Amazon, Amazon pays me a royalty, a finder's fee for doing that. We become affiliated. Then the same thing happens. I'll put an ad on Amazon, And if somebody goes from Amazon to my website and buys something, Amazon gets paid some of the money. You guys don't know this, that goes on behind the scenes. Okay, so that's called being affiliated with one another, and you become a partner, and you get a 1% or a 2% or sometimes a 10% share in the sales. Same thing happens if you buy my book. You buy my book, Amazon gets a cut of the book because they're going to process it and mail it to you. So they get paid some of the money, and then they send money to my publisher who published my book, and they get some of the money, and then I get what's left over. That's just the way it works. So when people say, where should I buy my book? I tell them, go to my publisher, because then Amazon doesn't take that extra $4 that I would get. Do you see? If you buy it from my publisher and they send it to you, I get more money, right? So I tell people, if you're going to buy my book from Amazon, get it on Kindle or audio book, because they only get like $1 and I get $4 from it. I make more money off of the ebook than I do if you buy a hard copy of my book, unless you buy off of Amazon and buy it from another website, and they charge less money. Amazon's the biggest. The reason Amazon is so powerful is they charge more money for anyone to sell stuff on their platform than anyone else. That's how they make their money: advertising and taking some of your profit, right? That's the truth. It's just the way that the e-commerce works. If you don't take civics classes and economics classes and e-commerce classes, you don't learn that stuff in business classes. You don't take any of that because they don't teach it to you in regular schools, public schools, and public colleges. It's only the elites, and they don't make it a prerequisite anymore in anything, and they used to. In schools when I was a kid, we had to learn how to write checks. We had to learn how to balance checkbooks. We had to learn civics. We had to learn economics. We had to learn business. That was standard when I was a kid. And somewhere along the line, when my kids' generation went through, when my stepson went through, they stopped teaching it. But they were teaching you how to cook, teaching you how to clean, teaching you how to build things in wood shop and metal shop. Why? Because that's what they wanted you to do. That's the jobs they wanted you to go into. Not teaching you how to be an entrepreneur, not teaching you how to balance your money, not teaching you how to be responsible with your money and why it's important, not teaching you how the world economics works. None of that, because you could become as successful as the rich people that are there and become their competitor and take their jobs. They don't want you doing that. Rockefeller was famous for saying that when he took control of the school systems. I'm not trying to make entrepreneurs, I'm trying to make workers. Look it up. That's one of his famous quotes. So that's exactly what they're doing to you. That's the modus operandi of this place. Why is that important? That's what Ra was talking about, balancing your chakras and moving into the spiritual, getting above that bottom 3 chakras into the spiritual plane, the upper 3 chakras, and balancing all of your chakras and starting to crystalline your chakras and moving more into the spiritual, because that enlightens you, opens up your mind, expands your consciousness, and you start to see this place for what it really is. And you start to realize that but it also changes your taste in things. So you cannot go through the illumination process and the enlightenment process and still eat that garbage food. Your body won't take it, and you'll notice the difference in a wholesome food, high vibration food, what we call ascension food. You'll realize that. And you'll realize that it tastes better, it feels better, it gives you better energy when you eat better foods instead of the crap that you get from fast food restaurants. So you quickly stop eating that, and they don't want you to do that. Then you start making salads and you start eating more healthy and cooking your own foods because it tastes better and you feel better and you're not as ill and you're not as sickly and you're not having as inflammation and you're not in pain and you're not tired all the time and you don't have too much sugar in your body making you type 2 diabetic, and you don't have too much salt in your body and your body's blowing up with all kinds of water trying to pass that stuff out like it's a poison, and that's causing inflammation in your joints. All of a sudden you feel better, you lose weight, you have more energy, and your outlook on the world is better just by simply changing the food that you eat. So if you're learning ascension, that process starts naturally for you, and you start craving better foods. They don't want you learning any of that. So they only teach you what you need to know to poison you so that you die somewhere in your 50s or early 60s, because they don't want you living past that anyway, because then you become a burden to them. So that's the modus operandi that you have to realize is happening here. That's why you're stuck here. That's why this place is stuck, because that is going on and you're unaware of that because you're veiled and you don't see it. And the only way that you ever learn that is either you become really evil, in which case you're just trying to climb up the ladder and stab people in the back as you're going anyway, so you don't really care. You just want to get mine. I got to get mine now. So then you're just looking for power, money, fame, clicks, likes, power, whatever. But if you don't, and you start going in a spiritual way, and you start raising your vibration in a spiritual way, changes the course of your entire life, and you start seeing what's happening here, and they can't have that. They need you asleep, and they need you sickly, and they need you buying into their reality at all cost. Right? So Sherry said, to understand how to pay bills or to do taxes, I've had to pay for a business course while my kids are still in school to learn everyday activities. Right. When I was growing up, I learned how to not have to pay taxes to the federal government in the United States. And people were like, what do you mean you don't pay taxes? You're going to go to jail for that. I'm like, no, I don't have to pay taxes because I file my taxes properly so that I don't owe them any money. They owe me money. I don't owe them any money. At the end of every year, I've only paid taxes once in my entire life. And that was the first year that I got married to my first wife, because she wasn't filing properly. She told me I didn't know what I was talking about and I was an idiot, and that I was going to get in trouble with the government. And then I said, look, if you filed this way, when we went and filed our taxes and owed the government money, I said, if we had filed this way, we wouldn't owe them any money. And so I asked the CPA right in front of her, if we would have filed this way, would we have well, no, you wouldn't have owed any money because the government would have taken more money up front and they would have owed you money. So you can either do that, or you can invest the money yourself, knowing that they're going to tax you on it. And if you make more money on your own by investing money, then you can pay the taxes on that and still have more money in the bank. And I'm like, that's a conversation for another time. The first thing I want my wife to understand is that if we change the way we file taxes, we can go through life never paying the federal government or the state government money. And we can come to you and get more money back every year. And so he explained to her that. So from that point on, she was like, okay, well, maybe we should file our taxes that way. And I've never had to pay taxes. The only time I've ever had to pay taxes was when other people are in my life and they don't understand how it works and they refuse to listen to me. And then they're used to perpetually owing the government money. Right. And I'm like, you need to take a course. You need to learn, you need to learn economics. You need to learn how this works. You need to learn the tax codes and how the taxes work. I've done my own taxes every year, and people are like, you shouldn't do your own taxes because you're going to get the math wrong and you're going to screw up and you're going to get audited. I'm like, I hope they audit me, because they're going to find out that they owe me money, that I don't owe them money. And I've never had to pay taxes. It's not because I denied paying taxes. It's because they owe me money, because I have them take out extra money. You live within a budget and you don't miss that money, or you don't have them take out any money and you take that money out of your own paycheck anyways, and you invest that so that you have that money. You don't just blow it on things, so that at the end of the year you have to pay taxes, but you have more money and you pay taxes. And people are like, no, I don't want to make more money because then it's just going to raise my taxes because I'm going to go up in the tax bracket. And see, that thinking will keep you poor for the rest of your life. Because, yeah, you pay more money, but the more money you pay, the more money you have made, the more money you're going to have in the bank. So, if I make $1 million, they're going to tax me on $100,000. Yeah, but you're going to make $900,000. Okay. If you only make $30,000 in a year, they're only going to tax you on $3,000, but you're only going to have $27,000. But if you make $1 million and they take $100,000, you have $900,000. Okay, it's not that. That's only 10%. So the more money you make, eventually you get into a higher tax bracket. But then you have to learn the game. The more money you make, the more money you have to invest. Buy a house, buy a car, buy a yacht, buy other things that you can write off, expenditures that you get tax credit for, and they can't tax you on it. So it lowers the amount of money that you have listed as a source income, and more money that you have listed as an outgoing, but it's property that you own. This is economics that you don't learn. So people that are rich, the reason that they're rich is because they're not really paying taxes. And that's what they were talking about when Donald Trump was running in 2016. He never pays taxes. Hillary Clinton said that about Donald Trump. He said, you're absolutely right. I don't, because the tax code that you and your husband wrote and all your friends use, you guys don't pay taxes either. Okay. Because If you own properties, there's a property tax, but if you have write-offs, it pays for the property taxes and it pays for your taxes, and you get money back, or you don't owe anything because it becomes a wash. Rich people stay rich because they own properties. They own stuff that make them write-offs. They write off their kids. They write off their cars. You start a company and you write off your car as the company car. Slap a magnet on the side of your car with your company logo on it, and everything is free now. You write off the mileage, you write off the gas, you write off the tires, you write off the oil, you write off everything maintaining the car that you get to drive now for free, and that comes out of taxes. So you get that as a write-off and get some of that money back because it's an expenditure for your company. Then if you take somebody to lunch and you talk about your business, you get that lunch back for free too. It's a write-off. So then you're not paying for your gas, you're not paying for your tolls, you're not paying for your meals, you're not paying for your advertising, you're not paying for anything. That's how it works. So if you learn these things in business, you don't have to pay taxes because you start making money and you have all these write-offs. And that's how the rich people stay rich. They know this stuff because they've taken the courses, okay? Whereas people don't learn that because they don't teach it to you anymore. And you get afraid, and all you want to do is keep your head down so the government, the big bad machine, the dragon of the North Sea doesn't come after you. Tiamat doesn't raise her ugly head and burn you to cinders. I just don't want them looking at me, and I'll just do my job, thank you, and I'll owe them $5,000 every year. And by the time I pay off the $5,000 from this year, I'll owe them another $5,000. And then I'll just go to fast food restaurants and drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes and die of cancer or something else by the time I'm 45, and no one cares. And that's the life that you're going to live if you live that life. You're going to have a short life, and you hope that you have a good one and live long enough to see grandchildren, let alone great-grandchildren. You'll be lucky to see grandchildren, and then you're going to die early, and then you're going to recycle and start all over again. Okay? So if you look around you and you start realizing that most of your friends are gone already when you hit your 50s, it's because you're living better than they were. Okay? For some reason, you still survived. Why? You'll find out you ate better than they did, and that's why. You didn't do the things they did, and you quit at some point, and because of that, you're living longer than those people, right? Out of all my friends, there's not very many of my friends that are still alive, 3 or 4 of them, and the ones that are alive are just like me. They stopped doing drugs, they stopped smoking, they stopped drinking at young ages, and now they're older, and we're going to be the ones that are going to be around into our 70s, 80s, and 90s. We're going to still know each other. We're going to be laughing. We made it. High five, brother. Here we are, right? I know a few of my friends that I wasn't sure would be around now, and we're all laughing. And when we talk to one another, we find out, guess what? We stopped eating all the crap. We stopped eating the processed foods. We stopped drinking the alcohols and eating the fats and the sugars, especially, and all the processed stuff. And we're eating better, and that's why we're living longer. And all the other friends of ours were all, died of cancer because they ate nothing but meat and potatoes and no vegetables and no fruits and no vitamins and all of that. You're what you eat. That's why they used to tell us, you are what you eat. Your focus determines your reality. And whether you buy into this matrix or not is going to determine how long you live. The reason that the average person is living longer and older is because we are making better decisions. And we're becoming more spiritual, and that is driving us to live longer. Okay, because you heal faster, all this thing, everything changes in a way that you can't understand until you become more spiritual. And just like people that start exercising, right? You start exercising, and if you stay and you keep exercising, you start wanting to eat better food because you get better energy from it. And when you do that, it propagates itself. Next thing you know, that you start losing weight, you feel better. Your body works better. It's more efficient. You're eating more food that's giving you better energy and more efficient, and your body's processing the food more efficiently. Your whole body is tuned up now. Your chakras are balancing, and you're healthier, and you feel good, and you have more energy, and you're a better person, and you're smiling and laughing. You're not yelling and screaming at everybody and being nasty and evil. And you cut all those people out of your life because you can't deal with the drama anymore, and your circle gets smaller. And you become spiritual because that's just what happens when you have time to think. We were talking about that with, was it Joanne where we were talking about that? We were talking about that just the other day on Wednesday when we were doing the roundtable, when I was on Zoom and we were talking how COVID changed the course of the world. And Joanne and I both said the best thing that happened to this world was COVID, because a lot of people say, well, how dare you? Because so many people died. But look what it's done for the world. Look at the changes that have made coming out of COVID, that exponentially people are waking up around the world and becoming more healthy and more spiritual. And that came as a direct result of the lockdowns and the mandates, when people had nothing else better to do than to start sitting around thinking for themselves and communicating with each other and going online and learning shit that they weren't doing before because they were distracted while they were out running around, hustle and bustle, standing in line to get a Starbucks and a fast food and watching the normal television shows. They were bored from all of that. And the next thing you know, people are waking up everywhere and they're going, oh my God, they're lying to us about everything. And I'm like, they've always been lying to us about everything. Where have you been? You just are aware of it now. And so it's changed, and the people are changing, and they're changing their governments, and they're changing the way of life, and it's exponentially. You can see it if you're looking around. COVID did that. The lockdowns did that. This draconian ideology that they were attacking people with has gotten people to wake up. But then, some people, right? Yeah, some people, Sherry said, you are what you eat, drink, and watch or move. Absolutely. Right? A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest stays at rest. But yeah, Joanne's here. We were talking about that just on Wednesday. But it's true. When you look around, if you're awake enough to see the world, you see the changes from 2016 until now are exponentially beneficial, exponentially more beneficial to the human race on this earth, because of those draconian measures that went into you have to have the shot or you're going to die, and we're going to force you to get the shot or we're going to fire you, and you have to lock down and wear a mask and stay at home. And some people's marriages went away, and some people's marriages got better. But the majority of the population started looking around because they had nothing else to do besides think. And when people start thinking, the first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. You start thinking, you start asking questions. And when you start asking questions, you start breaking your conditioning. And that's what's happening around the earth right now, is that those people that resisted, even in a small way, because of something, my kids, you're going to kill my kids with these mandates and what's going on, or I got fired from my job and that was bullshit and I shouldn't have. Thinking for yourself started this, and people are waking up, and now they're resisting when they're like, look out, a quademic is coming. People are like, get out. I'm not listening to you. I'm not taking your shot. I'm not putting on a mask. That isn't happening. The majority of people will not submit to that already because of what they had to submit to. And then the governments are like, you'll do what we tell you. And they're like, get out, we're firing you. And that's happened all over the world. More and more and more people are getting tired of it, and they're making changes. When America makes changes, you know that it had to piss somebody off. When Canada is making changes, you know that it had to piss somebody off, because those two countries are usually the last ones to make changes when it comes to that. But it looks like, like the UK, I thought had made some changes that they hadn't yet. So you guys got to make those changes as there. Australia, you do too. But these other countries are doing it. You guys will do it. It'll get tiresome. You'll start going, I'm tired of this, man. What's the alternative? I don't know, but these guys ain't doing it. Get them out of here and get somebody else in here. And if they can't do it, we'll throw their ass out too. Once you get to that point, you start throwing people out, the right people will gravitate to the job. And eventually, after throwing people out for a few cycles, you'll get people in that you'll go, keep that one, but get rid of that one. Keep that one, but get rid of that one. And eventually things will change. That's what happens. It's the natural order of things. And it's beginning now. And it's beginning in a great way. We'll see how things go running up to 2030. Okay, I'm going to leave. I got to go. It's now what? It's now 20 minutes to 6. Yeah, I got here in the United States. So I've been here for 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna run, get my mom in the shower, and then get dinner for us and hang out with, not speak anymore, because I've literally been talking since noon now. I took off 20 minutes prior to this, and I was talking from noon until 2:30, and then I took off 20 minutes and started, or 30 minutes, and started talking again. So I've been talking all day. So I'm gonna sit and do something brainless and watch television after I get my mom out of the shower and get dinner. All right, guys. I love you guys. I will see you guys later. Some of you I'll see in the chat at the Law of One class chat. Some of you I'll see on Wednesday, and we'll talk there, or personally in between there in different places, right? So yeah, that's that. So buy my book, guys. It's out there. It's called. I'm going to do that commercial. So for those of you who are still here, I'm going to do a commercial for my book, right? So for those of you around the world, you guys can listen to the commercial. Let's see, which one do I want to do here? Oh, that's the wrong place. I'll do the short. No, I'll do the big one. I'll do the longer one, the commercial. So buy my book. It's called the Reality About Reality: Returning to the Old Ways. So here goes the commercial right here for you guys that are out there around the world that are still here that happen to be listening. I always forget to do this at the beginning of the show. All right.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the old ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the old ways. On sale worldwide online now.
So yeah, Joanne, you said we got rid of the conservative and now you have the Labor Party. See, we're the opposite. We got rid of our Labor Party and now our conservative party has now become the party of the Labor Party. When they weren't before, it switched. And so the progressives, the Democrats who were the Labor Party became the progressives, and the people who used to be the progressives now became the Labor Party, right? But we call them, I understand what you're saying. So you had the conservatives and they were the commies, right? And so now you threw them out and you have the Labor Party. Let's hope you guys can make changes with that and open up some of those draconian ideologies and make the changes of that. And we're trying to do the same, follow you guys in suit with the food consumption in this country. You guys had that mandate where you don't allow crap food and all the dyes and all the chemicals in the food over there in the UK like we do over here. We're trying to get rid of that right now over here. And so literally the party's flipped over here, which has happened before. So what we have called the Republican Party is a conservative party, but now the conservative party is the Labor Party here, the party of the people, where they used to not be. They used to be the rich and the elite party. Now they're the party of the people. And the Democrat Party, which is the progressive party, the Liberal Party, they used to be the party of the people, the Labor Party over here, and they switched and became the party of the elites. Right, just in the last 10 years, both those things happened and they switched. So we threw out the Democrats and we now have the conservatives, who are literally our Labor Party now. So hopefully you guys got it right, and your conservatives were your radicals, and your Labor Party is your non-radical, and they're literally for the people. And let's hope that that's the case, because you'll get some of that draconian laws lifted that the other commies put in place during COVID lockdown. So let's hope you guys got it right too, and you can make some changes that we're working on making changes. They're doing it to Macron over there in France, where he's trying to now run back to the center and start a government that's more for the people, because they were telling him, you're fired if you don't make a change, and he doesn't want to step down. In Canada, Trudeau stepped down. Now they just have to change over the body of the politicians to a more labor-minded person, people-minded party, to get rid of that ideology. We'll see what happens there in Canada, because they have elections coming up. Let's hope that they're doing it too. But it seems like the people around the world, no matter what their political party was prior to COVID, are now no nonsense telling the government, you will do what we tell you to do, and if you don't like it, we'll fire you and get you out of here. So let's hope that you guys are doing the right thing, and if not, throw those assholes out over there in Europe, in UK, and get somebody else in there that'll do the job. That's the same thing. If Trump doesn't do it right, we'll throw him out in the party that they're trying to give us promises. If they don't do it and help us, we're people over here tired of it. We'll throw them out and get somebody new in, right? So let's keep that in mind and keep everybody on that page so that we can fix these problems and open things up, instead of turning more draconian and getting more lockdowns and more fear of the government. They should be afraid of us. We shouldn't be afraid of them. They should always be afraid of the people. If your government and your ruling class isn't afraid of you, you're doing something wrong, because if they have you buffaloed into believing that they're in charge, then that's when you have monarchies that get out of control. You guys had a great queen who did great over there for the people, at least seemingly so. As soon as she died, shit hit the fan over there, it seemed like, with your king that's over there. Let's hope that he doesn't try to do that. I know that's more of it's kind of like the president over here. They don't really yield as much power as people think they do. Your king doesn't either. Your parliament does most of that, right? Same thing here. Our House and Senate, our parliament does most of the ruling of the laws and things and enacting that. The president he yields some clout, but he's not king. You know what I mean? And your king these days is not as what they used to be when they were, 1,000 years ago or 800 years ago. It was completely different. The king was the king, and there wasn't much of a other ruling class like the Roman Empire kind of helped us all set up with this ideology from the Republic of Rome, from the book of the Republic. Okay. Which is what we're based on. All right, guys, I love you guys. Have a great night. I'll see you guys on the flip side, or I'll see you in the chat, or I'll see you on Wednesday, or I'll see you back here on Friday. All right, guys, love you all. Have a great night, okay?